Hey guys, how are all of you beautiful people doing? Hope all of you are doing fine, and yes, this is the another amazing video of Reincarnated in Naruto. So without any delay, let's start the story. Crash. Boom. The entire dimension shook and trembled. The sky became filled with dark storm clouds. The wind roared and howled as if it were a raging dragon. Craters formed so deep the bottom couldn't be seen. The battle currently in place within this dimension was so fierce that mountains split and rivers formed. The very terrain shifted and changed with every fist thrown and every jutsu casted. Haku rode atop his frozen ice dragon jutsu, evading and countering. He did all he could in order to weaken Kaguya. He quickly formed the ram hand sign and shouted, "Sage Art, Ice-style freezing liquid jutsu." A mass of dense freezing liquid condensed in the air and began to move towards Kaguya. I quickly weaved the horse hand sign and shouted, "Sage Art, Fire-style majestic destroyer flame jutsu." From my breath I exhaled a flame that spread across for several tens of meters tall and wide. Naruto quickly placed his hands together and tapped into the power of the 5 tails, Kokyo, and shouted, "Sage Art, vapor-style unrivaled strength." A large gaseous cloud of extreme boiling heat rushed towards Kaguya as she was surrounded in 3 corners by the 3 massive attacks aimed at her. As she was about to fly down towards the ground to avoid the attack, Kimimaro quickly shouted, "All killing ash bones, 1,000 spears of death." Immediately multiple sharp ash bones shot out from the ground and upwards towards Kaguya. Without any choice, she quickly looked up to the sky, and just as she was about to fly upwards to escape, Sasuke shouted, "Kirin!" Boom! The sound of thunder echoed across the entire dimension as a great dragon made of pure lightning dropped down from the sky and flew straight at Kaguya with blinding fast speed. Kaguya gritted her teeth and narrowed her eyes in frustration as she quickly gathered her powerful chakra all around her body and chose to dive straight through Haku's attack instead of taking on the brunt of all 5 attacks aimed at her together. Bam! Not a moment later, all of our attacks met in the middle and created a devastating storm of powerful chaotic energy. Kaguya, however, managed to escape, albeit her right arm was covered in frost and began to become discolored. She frowned as she took note that her right arm was no longer usable, so she quickly chopped it off. In but merely a few seconds she regrew another arm good as new. Before we could attempt another attack, she quickly arrived before Haku and struck out with her fist. Haku barely had time to respond as he raised up his arms to shield himself. Wham! Guh! Haku groaned as he was knocked flying through the air and crashing through the ground. Kimimaro quickly dashed over and aimed a powerful kick straight at Kaguya's head. However, Kaguya quickly threw a punch into a portal as another portal carrying Kaguya's fist opened up next to Kimimaro's side. Being caught off guard by Kaguya's unconventional attack, he too was knocked flying off into the distance. Naruto frowned and quickly flew down from the sky in his giant Kurama-cloaked form and slammed one of his giant chakra tails at her. Kaguya quickly responded by creating hundreds of her own giant chakra arms and parried his attack before successfully gripping one of his tails and swung him around, flinging him off into the distance. Just as Sasuke arrived before her, a dark portal appeared in front of him, forcing him to halt in his tracks before he could fall inside. The portal managed to obscure his vision as Kaguya whipped her long white hair around and slammed Sasuke off into one of the giant mountainous hills in the distance. I furrowed my brow as I quickly approached where she was. Black Zetsu cackled as he quickly chimed in, "Mother. Now is your chance. If you can kill this brat Izaya, then the others won't be able to jump dimensions. Once they are separated, you can kill them one at a time." Kaguya narrowed her eyes as she dashed at me with incredible speed. In less than a second she arrived before me and struck out with a palm strike. I quickly shifted my head to the left, avoiding her attack, and struck with my own palm strike, aiming at her neck. In but a mere minute we had exchanged over more than 100 strikes of hand-to-hand combat as we both kicked, punched, grappled, swept, dodged, countered, parried, and struck. As our fists came crashing down against one another, we were both instantly blown back by the recoil of our strike. Kaguya stumbled a few dozens of meters away. However, I came out much worse in that exchange as I stumbled a few hundreds of meters away. I gritted my teeth as I took note that even in my sage-enhanced state I still wasn't physically her match in Taijutsu. I widened my eyes in surprise as I saw several Ushbones quickly making their way towards me. Before I could get hit, I quickly threw out several kunai in the vicinity and flew to one of their locations, avoiding Kaguya's deadly attack. Just as I disappeared and reappeared, my heart skipped a beat as I quickly crossed my arms in front of me and guarded against one of Kaguya's giant chakra fists. Guh! I groaned as her attack connected and flung me crashing into a giant mountain. I struggled to not lose consciousness as blood flowed out of my mouth. Kaguya quickly floated down from the sky and in front of me as I racked my brain for my next plan of action. Kaguya quickly stuck out her hand and created a large Ushbone, shooting it straight at me. I tried to focus but was still a bit disoriented from her earlier attack. Only a single thought passed through my mind at that moment. "I'm sorry, Hanabi." I stared as the Ushbone came closer and closer. My vision started focusing in and out between obscurity and clarity. It felt as if time began to slow down. Is this what it feels like when you stare death in the face? I smiled mockingly to myself and thought. However, I quickly snapped out of my thoughts and widened my eyes in surprise when I took note that the Ushbone spear remained stuck midair and didn't approach. I blinked once to ensure that I was seeing things correctly, but the strange thing was that my vision had never been more clear than in that moment. Without wasting any time at all, I quickly flew off into the distance to one of my kunai from earlier, escaping from that perilous situation as I furrowed my brow in a bit of confusion at what just happened. It wasn't only me who was confused. Kaguya and Black Zetsu, who watched the entire ordeal before their eyes, were shocked to the extreme. Black Zetsu stammered, Impossible. How? Why does Izaya possess the Rinnegan as well?" Kaguya frowned as she watched in that moment as her Ushbone spear finally moved and shot out at the now empty spot where I was previously. She activated her Bakugan before turning to look at me in the distance with great wariness and spoke to no one in particular. "He has awakened the Rinnegan in both of his eyes. It seems his body is a bit unique. In order to teleport into my different dimensions, he needs a great amount of chakra. The chakra he uses to teleport into my many different dimensions is fueled by the other 4 shinobi. That is how he received the chakra from both Asura and Indra's reincarnations, Naruto and Sasuke. Furthermore, Naruto and Sasuke have received a portion of Hagoromo's chakra. Small portions of that chakra entered his body when those two shared it with him to teleport around. Just now his body successfully harmonized those two halves of Hagoromo's chakra into one, which allowed his Sharingan to evolve into that of the Rinnegan." Black Zetsu gritted his teeth in frustration and anxiousness. "Mother! We must do everything we can to kill him. 2 Rinnegan users will be too dangerous to deal with at the same time." Kaguya nodded as she prepared to re-engage in battle. Meanwhile, as Kaguya and Black Zetsu were discussing my Rinnegan, I was also observing the changes that happened to me. Both of my eternal Mangekyo Sharingans had transformed into a completely black-colored red-ringed circular patterned Rinnegan with 6 red-colored Tomo in them. I placed my palm over my eye in disbelief and thought, was it because I received a portion of Naruto and Sasuke's chakra that contained some of Hagoromo's chakra? I quickly did my best to discern exactly what abilities my Rinnegan granted me, but didn't have too much time as Kaguya quickly arrived before me and struck out with several large ash bones. Before those ash bones could reach me, I stuck out my palm and shouted, "Almighty push!" Boom! Instantly the ash bones were blown off into the distance as I quickly dashed straight towards Kaguya and shouted, "Amaterasu!" Kaguya quickly created a portal in front of her, causing the inextinguishable black flames to enter her portal instead of hitting her. She quickly infused chakra into her hair and shot it straight at me. However, I quickly activated the power of my right Rinnegan and shouted, "Kanigara no Michi!" Instantly everything within a 5-meter radius of me froze completely. I quickly dashed right before Kaguya and thrust out as powerful of a palm strike as I could, blasting her off into the distance at the same time marking her with my flying thunder god seal. I smirked at my success and instantly teleported to Sasuke and Naruto, gathering them both to my side. I could tell they both had wanted to ask about my Rinnegan, but without letting them interject I simply said, "I've marked her. Now's our chance. I'll teleport you both to her side." Without any more words of discussion I instantly teleported them both next to Kaguya. Naruto and Sasuke didn't waste any time as they immediately placed their palm over her. The sun and moon seal on their hands resonated together and slowly began to cover Kaguya's Rinnegan. It all happened so fast that Kaguya and Black Zetsu couldn't even react. Black Zetsu could only voice in disbelief. Impossible. How did this happen? No. Kaguya frowned in disbelief as well. How can this be? I have been defeated by my own children once again. I am the progenitor of chakra. What happened? How did that child stop my attack? How did he strike me without my knowledge? And how did Sasuke and Naruto arrive before me in an instant? The dimension shook and trembled as rock and debris floated into the air, coalescing into one giant moon. Kaguya screamed in anguish as her body expanded in size. All the chakra she had absorbed within her was being released back into the world. The tailed beasts stretched out from her body and ripped themselves free of her control as the 9 of them fell from the sky and landed on the ground with a loud thud. Black Zetsu struggled to free himself from the seal, but no matter how he fought he couldn't break free. Sasuke stared at the giant mass in the air as it still continued to grow and shouted, "Run! Or else we'll all be pulled up there as well." Whoosh! Immediately after Sasuke finished his sentence, he, Naruto, and all the tailed beasts ran as fast as they could off into the distance. Boom! 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 The loud sound of the ground shaking from the heavy footsteps of all 9 tailed beasts running could be heard. It wasn't long before they made it to a safe distance. Swish! 3 people instantly appeared next to Sasuke and Naruto at that moment. Izaya. Haku. Kimimaro. Naruto exclaimed as he turned towards us. Haku simply stared in awe at the giant mass in the sky that was still growing and said, "Did we win?" Naruto threw a thumbs up and replied, "Amen." Kimimaro sat on the ground and let out a sigh of relief and fatigue. Finally. It's over. I smiled as I watched everyone's relieved expressions show on their faces and praised, "We made it through this together. Everyone." Sasuke turned to me and stared at my eyes for a moment in silence before he couldn't hold back his curiosity anymore and asked, "Izaya, your eyes, how?" It was at this moment that Haku and Kimimaro took notice of the change in my eyes as well. Big brother, you also possess the Rinnegan. Since when? Haku asked bewilderedly. I thought about how to answer for a moment before saying, to be honest, I don't really know. I can only guess. My body is very good at assimilating bloodlines. Naruto, you received the light portion of the Sage of Six Paths chakra. Sasuke, you received the shadow portion of the Sage of Six Paths chakra. Sasuke, you shared some of your chakra with me so that I could teleport us to Naruto's location when we were first separated. Naruto, you shared some of your chakra with me when Haku was separated from us. Then you shared some with me again so we could teleport to Sasuke later. My guess is that when you both shared some of your chakra with me it contained a portion of the Six Paths Sage chakra. Sasuke, I assume this is how you obtained your Rinnegan. As you received half of the Six Paths chakra. Naruto, that is how you can fly. You received the other half of the Six Paths chakra. Receiving the Six Paths chakra evolved your powers fundamentally. When I received a portion of both halves of the Six Paths chakra, my body must have assimilated the two powers together, and in turn it caused my eyes to fundamentally change and evolve into the Rinnegan. While I'm not sure if this is correct, that's my theory. I was just as surprised, if not more surprised, than all of you when it happened. But ultimately that transformation saved my life. I may have fallen to Kaguya's attack otherwise. Everyone took a moment to take in what I said before Naruto broke the silence. Ah. Wait. Instead of wondering how Izaya awakened the Rinnegan, shouldn't we worry about how we're going to get back? Sasuke stared at Naruto dumbfoundedly. Couldn't Izaya just teleport us back to our dimension? The tailed beasts laughed as Son Goku chimed in, Oi, Kurama. Your Jinchuriki isn't half bad, but he's still a bit dense, huh? Kurama simply looked on dumbfoundedly in silence. I rubbed the back of my head sheepishly and said, well, I believe I can teleport all of us back, but it will require enormous amounts of chakra. I'd need the aid of all the tailed beasts here to pool together your chakra for the jump to be successful. Naruto scratched the side of his cheeks as he grinned towards all the tailed beasts. Well, what about it, you guys? Kurama simply fake scoffed. HMPF. I suppose you did play a pivotal role in freeing us. Jayuki laughed and chimed in, Oi Kurama. You can be more honest with your feelings, you know. No need to act so high and mighty now. Kikekik. That guy never knows how to lighten up. Shukaku retorted in his high-pitched voice. I simply smiled awkwardly as Haku, Kimimaro, Naruto, Sasuke, and I listened to all the tailed beasts banter with each other. I took a sweep around us and noted that the giant moon was finally stabilizing in the sky, completing the seal of Kaguya and Black Zetsu. Letting out a sigh of relief, I pulled out a black silk blindfold and started tying it around my eyes. Naruto noticed my actions and tilted his head to the side in confusion before asking, Izaya, why are you putting a blindfold on? After I finished tying my blindfold in place, I simply shrugged my shoulders. It just feels natural to have it on. I've been wearing one my entire life. I feel a bit naked without it now. Besides, there are only two main abilities that I can't use when I wear my blindfold. Ocular Genjutsu, and Amaterasu. All my other ocular abilities don't actually require eye contact. Plus, a lot of people know me by my blindfold. It's a memorable feature of mine, I suppose. Naruto scratched his head and nodded. Yeah, I guess what you say does make sense. Plus the whole blindfold thing makes you seem more mysterious. By the way, shouldn't we head back now? Before anyone could respond, we all felt ourselves being warped. In the next instant we disappeared from Kaguya's dimension and reappeared in the battlefield of our world. Kimimaro widened his eyes in shock. How? He then turned to look at me, but I shook my head. It wasn't me. I then nodded in front of us where an old man sitting cross-legged floating in the air was. Naruto quickly chimed in, "Old man 6 paths." Hagoromo laughed and smiled. Ha 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 ha. Excellent work, the 5 of you. You all have defeated my mother and saved the world. Sasuke took a quick glance around and noticed that they were standing inside a giant summoning circle with a bunch of people standing on the outside. The previous Hokages included. Hagoromo gave us all a moment to take in our surroundings before continuing. You all have been summoned back to your world. I enlisted the help of all the previous 5 Kage. I tilted my head to the side as I stared at the Sage of 6 Paths and thought, so this is the Sage Otsutsuki Hagoromo. Looks just as I remembered him. His presence is incredible. The amount of power he wields must be amazing. Hagoromo took note of my inspection of him and chuckled. You must be Karasuma Izaya. I slightly flinched at his comment, knowing that he probably caught me inspecting him, and quickly replied, "Yes, I am Izaya. It's a pleasure and an honor to meet you, Lord Sage." He nodded his head in approval. "Mn. I am Otsutsuki Hagoromo, also known as the Sage of 6 Paths. And the pleasure and honor is mine, Izaya-kun. I have been watching the passing of time in this world for a long while. I am most impressed by you. You have a strong will, a compassionate heart, an intelligent mind, and assertive voice, a talent with words, contain great wisdom, a powerful leader, and have managed to successfully guide everyone to defeat my mother Kaguya. You were also able to save Indra's reincarnation from a path of darkness and Asura's reincarnation from a road of hatred." I simply shook my head. "You overpraise me, Lord Sage." Hagoromo simply chuckled. "Ha ha ha. And it appears you are quite humble as well. Anyways, once again congratulations to you all." At this moment Naruto left to go excitedly speak to Kurama, causing Kurama to flush embarrassedly. Hagoromo continued to simply chuckle at the sight. At that moment Sasuke and I saw the first Hokage Hashirama walk towards a body on the ground. I raised my eyebrow in surprise as I took note of who it was. Madara. I nearly forgot about him. Just as Sasuke was about to move towards Madara, Hagoromo spread out his arms to stop him and said, "Madara had all the tailed beasts extracted from him. He won't last much longer. Take a good look at the end of your predecessors. You should watch closely." As Madara laid on the ground completely drained of strength, he heard footsteps slowly approach him. "Hashirama. Is that you?" Hashirama knelt down by Madara's dying body and responded, "Mn. It's me." Madara curled his lips in a bit of self-mockery as he said, "I guess neither you nor I could achieve what we wanted." Hashirama shook his head. "It's never that easy. We can only do all we can while we are still alive. And everything and anything that we couldn't accomplish in our lifetime we pass on to the future generations." Madara smirked. "Heh. So naive. As always. But you were always like that. An optimist. But perhaps, that is the correct path. My dream was crushed. But your dream lives on." Hashirama stared down at Madara sadly as he listened and replied, "You and I were too hasty. We didn't need to fulfill our dreams ourselves. Instead, it was more important to guide and teach those who came after us so that we could entrust them with our dreams. Then I would have failed anyways." Since I always hated having someone stand behind my back. Hashirama smiled a bit. When we were kids. You once said to me that because we are shinobi we don't know when we'll die. And for neither side to die we'd both have to reveal what's inside of us and pour each other drinks to toast like brothers. But we're both about to die. We can drink together as old war buddies. Madara smirked as he slowly closed his eyes. War buddies, huh? Well, I suppose that's not so bad. Hashirama let out a sad sigh as he watched Madara breathe his last breath and enter the afterlife. Hagoromo nodded in approval and said, "This is the perfect moment. I shall release the jutsu and free the previous 5 Kages as well as those still under the reanimation." It was at that moment that Naruto stared fondly and sadly at Minato. Kurama put on a soft expression as he said, "Go." Naruto nodded and dashed over to Minato. I watched everything play out from the side as Hagoromo began to undo his jutsu and release those who still remained under the reanimation, such as Lord First, Second, and Lord Fourth. As Minato ascended to the heavens, the last words he said were, "Everyone. We leave the rest to you." Tobirama was the next to disappear as he chimed in, "Big brother," as the fourth said. "Let's leave the rest to the new generation." Hashirama nodded as he looked over to where we were. Naruto, Sasuke, Haku, Kimimaro, and a blindfolded shinobi. I nearly fell over myself at Hashirama's last interjection in the end. Right. Lord First and Lord Second never officially met me. I scratched the side of my cheek awkwardly and said, "My name is Izaya. Karasuma Izaya. It's an honor to make your acquaintance, Lord First." Hashirama simply laughed embarrassedly. "Ha ha ha ha. Right. We haven't formally met, so excuse my rudeness. MN. Naruto, Sasuke, Haku, Kimimaro, and Izaya. We entrust the world to you all. I'm sure you all will find a different conclusion to the one that Madara and I had. No. In fact, you probably already have. MN. I can go easily knowing the world is in good hands." Hashirama smiled goofily and happily as he finally disappeared in a flutter of bright lights. All the tailed beasts rejoiced as Son Goku chimed in, "Finally we're free. I'm going back to Suirundo." Kokyo quickly commented, "I'm going to go seclude myself in a forest." Kurama turned to Jiyuki and said, "Eight Tails, what are you going to do?" Jiyuki remained silent for a moment before responding, "I think I'm going to return to B. I left a piece of my tail with him before we were separated. He should be around somewhere. His annoying rapping has ended up growing on me. Plus, he's not such a bad guy. So, what about you?" Kurama remained silent for a moment and quickly side-glanced at Naruto, not knowing how he should respond. Hagoromo chimed in at that moment. "Naruto contains a piece of each of your chakras. If you all need to discuss something, you can meet inside the psyche plane within Naruto. Kurama, I'd like you to remain inside Naruto as the overseer of this gathering place. It's no longer a hardship for you anymore, right?" Kurama sheepishly looked away and replied, "Well, if you say so, old man. Then I guess I have no choice." The other tailed beasts laughed as they began their banter once again. In the end, Hagoromo interrupted, "Now there is only one thing left to do. To undo the infinite Tsukuyomi. In order to accomplish this, Sasuke, with your Rinnegan, and Naruto, with the bits and pieces of all the tailed beasts' chakra gathered inside of you, if you and Sasuke join together to form the rat hand sign, the infinite Tsukuyomi shall be released." Kurama commented in surprise. That's it. That's pretty simple then, old man. Naruto smiled and walked over to Sasuke as he held out his hand. Sasuke stared at Naruto for a moment in silence before he closed his eyes and formed the rat hand seal with Naruto. At the same time they both said, "Infinite Tsukuyomi, release." The instant Sasuke and Naruto completed the seal, the world shook and the large trees of the divine, deep forest emergence began to crumble away. All those trapped within the infinite Tsukuyomi were slowly released back into the world of reality. I rejoiced as I felt my heart pound uncontrollably in my chest as the image of a single person clouded my mind. Hanabi. Instantly I activated the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and arrived by her side, catching her small sleeping frame in my arms as she was falling down to the ground. Just as I landed, I softly brushed the strands of hair that were covering her face to the side and gritted my teeth in anxiousness as I sensed that she still had some broken ribs. I watched the semi-irregular movement of her chest from her breathing due to her broken ribs causing her pain. A single tear fell from my eyes and dripped down on her cheeks. Hanabi felt a warm sensation fall on her cheeks, prompting her to struggle to open her eyes. However, immediately she was glad that she put in the effort to take a peek, because the first thing she was met with was Izaya's handsome face. I watched Hanabi smirk and struggle to lift her hand as she softly caressed the side of my cheek, wiping away the tear on my face. Izaya. She softly whispered. I frowned as feelings of frustration and anger directed at myself for not protecting Hanabi better welled up inside of me. I simply pulled her to my chest and held her as close to me as possible, being extremely careful not to agitate her wounds any further. I'm sorry. I should have come sooner. Hanabi smiled as she relished the warmth of our embrace and softly stroked the back of my head. It's okay. I'm fine. Did we win? I simply nodded my head. MN. 1 week later. 1 week has passed since the end of the Fourth Great Ninja War, I contemplated as I sat atop the roof of my apartment building. Even though a week has passed, everything was left in disarray and chaos. The entire world's infrastructure was damaged due to all of the large tree branches from the divine, deep forest emergence erupting from the ground and tearing apart buildings and land structures. On top of that, countless shinobi had died in the war. Many of those shinobi were mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, sons, daughters, and more. Many had families that weren't shinobi and many had families that were shinobi. Some lived, some didn't. The process to recollect the dead was hectic and unorganized. Even now not all of the bodies have been recovered. Kumogakyo was without a leader for 5 days. The fourth Reikage couldn't name a successor before his death. The Kumogakyo Council had finally decided on Derue as the fifth Reikage. And although the third Sushikage named Kurotsuchi as his successor before his death, there was still the whole process of trying to publicly officiate her position. Add to the fact that she was still incredibly young. In fact, she was only a year older than myself. Kirigakyo wasn't incredibly stable even before the war, and now it's in even more chaos. It's practically mayhem over there. Konoha isn't doing much better. Tsunade hasn't been able to properly fulfill her role as the Hokage, and I don't blame her. She nearly died during the war and has suffered a lot already. I wouldn't be surprised if she's been traumatized by her near-death experience. The stress of trying to deal with all the problems in the village and the outside world definitely doesn't help her situation. The truth is, Tsunagakyo is doing the best of all the villages. Mostly thanks to Gaara's ability to manage it, but even then they're just barely getting by. The world is in an absolute state of chaos. Each village's economy and resources has plummeted. The cost to fund the Fourth Great Ninja War wasn't cheap. Add the fact that trade routes are slow or have stopped completely. Travel roads need to be repaired, etc. I let out a deep sigh in frustration as I thought about all of the chaos going on. I took a quick peek at the sky and noted that it was about time for the next Jonin Council meeting to start. I took one last gaze at the village below, which was still in shambles, and let out another sigh before dashing off to the Hokage's building where the Jonin Council was being held. Creak. As I opened the door, I was met with many familiar faces. Kakashi, Guy, Choji, Shikamaru, Neji, Sakura, Sasuke, Hanabi, Naruto, Kiba, Haku, Kimimaro, Lee, and many more. Essentially everyone who had graduated in our class had been promoted to Jonin nearly immediately after the war ended. The only ones who haven't officially been promoted to Jonin were Kimimaro, Naruto, and Hanabi. First, Hanabi was approximately 2 years younger than us, and when the war began she never had the chance to take the Chunin exams, therefore, she was essentially still a genin. Naruto and Kimimaro also never had the chance to take the Chunin exams, and therefore they were also technically still genin. Only those who had been officially Chunin before the war were promoted to Jonin after the war, which was practically everyone else, but Hanabi, Naruto, and Kimimaro were obviously allowed to join the Jonin Council as they played pivotal roles during the war. As I made my way inside the room, I was warmly greeted by everyone. I stopped right before Hanabi and grabbed her hand in mine as I gave a light squeeze to reassure her that everything would be fine, even though this was the 5th meeting we were having. All this time nothing had been improving since no plan of action was being implemented. Partly because Tsunade rarely made it to these meetings. Hanabi simply smiled warmly at me, but I could see the worry in her eyes. We all waited for another 10 minutes, but Tsunade still hadn't shown up. By now we all had expected this. The two elders Koharu and Homura coughed as they said, "Ahem. Well, it appears that the 5th Hokage is occupied. Hence, we shall begin this Jonin Council meeting to discuss the problems and issues we currently face. Does anyone have any brilliant ideas?" Silence. Complete silence filled the room as everyone struggled to think of something. This may be our 5th time meeting, but no real solutions have actually ever been presented. And I don't blame anyone. Everyone in this room was still dealing with the trauma they experienced from the war. They all still needed time to grieve the friends, comrades, family, and loved ones they lost in the war. All this time I had been contemplating about the state of things as well. I took one glance over at Hanabi and noticed the anxiety in her eyes. The fear that things were only going to get worse from here on out. My heart ached seeing her like this. She hadn't got a moment of proper rest ever since we returned from the war. Having to deal with her clan. Then helping out the village. Dealing with the trauma she experienced during the war. I gritted my teeth and slowly brought her hand to my lips and kissed the back of her hand softly. My action startled her, and immediately the fear and anxiety in her eyes washed away, replaced with an emotion of love and care and embarrassment. I smiled. Yes. These are the expressions I'd rather see on her face. I then turned my attention back to the silent room of Jonin and said, "I have an idea." Immediately everyone turned their attention towards me. Homura raised his eyebrows and responded, "Oh. Do share, Izaya. Anything is better than nothing." I simply nodded my head before continuing. After these past 7 days I've had some time to think clearly about everything. First, we need to lay out what kind of problems the village is facing. Then we also need to define what kinds of issues the world is facing that might affect us immediately and slow our progress of rebuilding. Once we clearly understand the major issues plaguing the village and the rest of the world, we can move forward with clear solutions. Homura nodded and replied, "Yes. That seems reasonable. From what it sounds like, you already have an idea of what these major issues are, correct?" I nodded once more. "Yes. Let me start with the village. The major issues we face include having a reliable and effective way to retrieve the still unrecovered bodies of our fallen comrades on the battlefield. Our military strength has dropped significantly and there is no order to it currently. Our police force also has no current structure and is not in place. The villagers have lost many of their loved ones in the war and wish to hold a memorial, but there has been no answer from the village authorities. This is because the village is swamped with a host of other problems. They include trying to rebuild the foundations of our buildings, re-establishing trade routes, tending to the injured post-war, trying to stabilize and redistribute economic resources to the right places that need them, and calming public unrest and crime. These are the major issues the village faces. As for worldly problems, there's a tension between all the 5 great nations due to a lack of communication post-war, since every nation is occupied with trying to solve their own problems. This could lead to an outbreak of war. One nation might see the need to raid another village in desperation for acquiring more resources to help rebuild their own village. Also, international trade routes need to be re-established. Not only that, the 5 daimyo want to hold an award ceremony to honor the shinobi that fought in the 4th Great Ninja War, however their timing is terrible and they can't read the status quo that none of the 5 great nations wish to participate, at least not yet, as there hasn't even been time to hold a proper memorial for those that have fallen. And people need at least a month's time to grieve and mourn. These are some of the major outside village issues we are facing. Everyone in the room widened their eyes in surprise and shock at the revelation that the issues the village was facing may be much worse than they had anticipated. They all knew that the village was in dire straits, but after hearing what issues the village was actually facing, they all realized that they weren't taking it seriously enough. Koharu nodded at my assessment of the problems and said, "Then do you have any proposals for how to solve these issues?" I thought for a moment before nodding. "I do. With the matter of infrastructure, if Yamato and I work together, we can restore at least 70% of the destroyed buildings in a week, perhaps even less. To ensure the 5 great nations don't resort to war for a scramble of resources, I suggest we send diplomatic envoys to each nation and offer any form of assistance we can afford. This will help us keep friendly ties and show that we have not abandoned one another even after the war. This will also help us remain informed of the state and progress of each village. And although our military strength has drastically dropped after the war, I suggest sending out 1/3 of our manpower to search and recover the rest of the bodies of our fallen comrades across the battlefields. Once all bodies have been recovered, the village should hold an official memorial service to those who have given their life in the war. Once all villages have held their own memorial service, we should collaborate with all the nations and hold one great memorial service together to show that the Allied Shinobi force lives on and that the 5 great nations will continue to work together towards a path of peace. Then we give at least a month's time for mourning. Then and only then can we and the other nations agree to the daimyo's proposal to hold an award ceremony for all 5 great nations." At that moment Homura and Koharu turned to stare at each other before they came to a silent tacit agreement and said, "Karasuma Izaya, step forth." I slightly flinched and wondered if my suggestions weren't good enough, but obeyed anyways and quickly stepped out in front of everyone. What confused me was that Koharu and Homura were smiling as they said, Karasuma Izaya, we have decided. You shall be named as the 6th Hokage. I widened my eyes in complete shock at what I just heard. What? I exclaimed. The two elders resumed their emotionless facial expressions and said, You heard. We have decided that you are the only one suitable to take up the mantle of Hokage. I furrowed my brow as I responded, This is out of order. The 5th Hokage, Tsunade, is still alive and well. Discussing who should be the next Hokage when the current Hokage isn't present is unorthodox and disrespectful. The two elders simply shook their head in disagreement as they continued, I think not. I speak to the Jonin Council and ask that you all bear witness. Do any of you object to naming Karasuma Izaya as the 6th Hokage? Silence. Complete silence as no one voiced their dissent. I furrowed my brow in confusion as I turned around to face all the Jonin in the room and saw the complicated and conflicted looks on their faces. Koharu nodded and said, As you can see, Izaya, no one here objects. She then pulled out a letter to which Hanabi widened her eyes in surprise and shock. She suddenly remembered that the letter in Koharu's hands were very familiar looking and recalled where she had seen it before. Back during the war, right after Izaya had left to resume his mission to find Kabuto, she had walked into the tent of HQ and saw Tsunade writing a letter before sending it off with a bird. Koharu unfurled the letter and said, This is a letter written by the 5th Hokage Tsunade during the war containing her will. In this letter she states that should anything happen to her she names Karasuma Izaya as the 6th Hokage. The 3rd Hokage Hiruzen has also signed his name in this letter endorsing Tsunade's decision. Although Tsunade survived the war, it has taken its toll on her. It has caused her great stress and is interfering with her ability to properly manage the village as the Hokage. In this time of great turmoil and confusion, the village needs a strong Hokage with good reasoning and a powerful voice who can make fast and adequate decisions to help stabilize and rebuild the village. Izaya, while you are very young and will be the youngest Hokage in history, you have earned enough merit and reputation in the world of Shinobi to be qualified for the position of Hokage. As you can see, none of the Jonin in the room have voiced any objections or dissent, which means they would endorse you as the 6th Hokage. I frowned and tried to formulate my thoughts into words. Sakura furrowed her brow as she recalled how Tsunade has been this past week. She recalled how Tsunade had gotten drunk to the point where she couldn't stand on her own. She recalled how Tsunade grumbled, complained, and cried over the death of Jiraiya and her unexpected meeting with Dan. She recalled Tsunade's pained expression when she spoke of how she was so ready to die and resolved to sacrifice herself for Naruto, but in the end she ended up living. She recalled how Tsunade spoke in anguish of how she had to live with the fact that she had to choose to give up saving the life of her sensei, Hiruzen, for Naruto's during the war. She recalled how stressed Tsunade was at having to deal with all the issues and problems of the village and the world and fulfill her duties as Hokage after the war. She recalled how useless Tsunade said she felt as the Hokage for being unable to come up with any solutions and being unable to overcome her current mental situation. After remembering all of that, Sakura steeled her resolve and spoke up. I support the decision of naming Izaya as the 6th Hokage. Lady Tsunade has already done enough for the village as Hokage. She took over the village after Orochimaru's attack. She maintained the stability of the village while having to keep Danza's organization root at bay in the shadows and simultaneously deal with the Akatsuki in the daylight. Then she had to bear the burden of leading the village into the Fourth Great Ninja War. A war that nearly took her life. Lady Tsunade deserves to live a more relaxed life now. Everyone contemplated everything that had been said this far and silently nodded in agreement. Ino turned to Sakura and said, I support the decision to name Izaya as Hokage, but is the timing really okay? I mean, we are in a state of chaos and turmoil. Wouldn't it be an odd transition? At that moment the door swung open, revealing Tsunade disheveled form leaning against the doorframe with Shitsune close behind her. Everyone in the room quickly turned and panickingly and respectfully greeted Tsunade, however she simply smirked and said, "I consent to naming Izaya as the 6th Hokage." EHHH. Everyone in the room questioned aloud at Tsunade's unexpected words. Tsunade smiled and continued, "What everyone has said so far is true. I need time to recover my mental health. In my current state I can't adequately govern the village. Plus, Izaya, you are more than ready to take up the mantle as Hokage. After witnessing your abilities firsthand on the battlefield, I had already decided at that time to confer to you the title as the 6th TH. Hanabi turned to me and walked over, gripping my hand softly and squeezed gently in a reassuring manner. She then looked up at me lovingly and nodded. I sighed internally and calmed my emotions at Hanabi's actions and looked over the room once more, seeing that no one voiced any objections. Then, with a serious look on my face, I walked over to Tsunade and knelt before her. "Lord Fifth, if you would have me, then I humbly accept the responsibility of carrying on the will of fire as the 6th Hokage." Tsunade looked down at me and smiled in relief as she felt a large weight being lifted off her shoulders. Just as I stood back up to face all the Jonin in the room, I was met by everyone saluting me as they all said, "We greet Lord 6th Hokage." Before I could say anything, Tsunade chimed in, "Izaya, just accept their greeting. Although your anointing as the 6th Hokage hasn't been made public to the rest of the village yet and no ceremony was held, the fact that you were appointed as the 6th Hokage in front of all the Jonin in the village is pretty much official enough. From this moment on, you will take up office as the Hokage. I will focus on recovering my mental health. That means that starting from this instant you will be performing all the duties given to that of the Hokage. I'm sure the two elders Homura and Koharu can fill you in on the details. Shitsune can drop by sometime this week as well to help get you started. I will formally introduce you as the 6th Hokage next week to the public. Good luck. Oh, and congratulations." Tsunade smiled and waltzed off, swaying and stumbling, but continued on with the aid of Shitsune. It wasn't long before the Jonin meeting was temporarily halted so Koharu and Homura could fill me in on the details of what the duties a Hokage had to perform were. It wasn't until after midnight that I was set free from all the information that the two elders wanted to pass on to me. I yawned as I tiredly waltzed into my apartment building. Luckily, my apartment building was one of the few buildings that managed to survive the damages of the war. As I got ready for bed, I noticed a presence just outside my door. "Hanabi," I whispered. I waltzed over to the door and opened it to find Hanabi standing there ever so beautifully as the moonlight reflected off of her beautiful eyes and body. She laced our fingers together and dragged me over to the bed as we both laid down in comfortable silence. Completely exhausted, it didn't take long before I entered a deep slumber with Hanabi in my arms. Hanabi snuggled close to my chest as she heard me whisper in my sleep, "Hanabi." Hanabi felt her heart warm as she looked up from my chest and at my dashingly handsome face, and softly, she brought her lips to my own, kissing them ever so gently. "I love you," she whispered softly before sleep soon overtook her as well. The skies were overcast with gloomy clouds as a slight chilly breeze passed through the air. However, at this very moment the entire village was gathered down below right before the Hokage's building. "Hey, do you know what's going on?" "I don't know, don't ask me. It feels like something drastic is going to happen." "Huh? How can anything more drastic than the aftermath of the Fourth Great Ninja War happen? TSK. I hope whatever this important public announcement that Lord Fifth Hokage has to make is actually important. I wonder what's going on with the village. How are we going to survive this crisis? Our homes are still left in shambles. Heh. Probably will be in shambles for a long time. Here's a secret, I saw the Fifth Hokage drinking away liters upon liters of alcohol just the other day. SHHHH. Keep that information to yourself. What if she hears you? Don't you know that the Fifth is rumored to be a bit hot-tempered? I hear she could blast a mountain into smithereens with a single punch. Chatter amongst chatter could be heard from the crowd below as confusion, dissent, and growing anxiety filled the atmosphere. At this moment on top of the Hokage's building stood several elite jonin, Shitsune, Tsunade, the two Konoha elders, and myself. Shitsune turned to Tsunade with a bit of worry as she heard what some people were saying down below and concernedly said, "Lady Tsunade." However, before she could finish her sentence, Tsunade smirked and replied, "It's fine, Shitsune. There is some truth to what the people are saying. This is precisely why it's the perfect time to name a new Hokage. Plus, what people are saying is only temporary. They are speaking how they feel at this moment. I don't take any personal offense to it." She then strode forwards, revealing herself to all the people below, causing the crowd to go completely silent. Tsunade cleared her throat and in a loud booming voice she said, "People of Konoha. I know you all have your doubts and worries about the state of the village. I stand here before you as your Fifth Hokage to tell you this. I know the war has affected you all. It has affected me as well. Yes, I admit it. The war has taken its toll on me and has hindered my ability to properly meet the needs of the village and its people. For that I can only offer you my apologies and ask for your forgiveness. I have failed you in this time of great need. And that is why I have decided to abdicate the position of the Fifth Hokage for the Sixth Hokage. Rest assured that in his hands the village will find its flame in the dark and reignite anew. He is one of the great war heroes that played a pivotal role in ending the Fourth Great Ninja War. He has earned the moniker of Konoha's White Flash, the Blind Warrior, the Lone Ninja, and the God of Shinobi. Step forth, Karasuma Izaya." The crowd below were extremely shocked at the speech Tsunade just gave and at this new development. At Tsunade's cue I slowly and confidently made my way over and stood before the crowd below. The wind in the air slowly passed by, causing my new Hokage's haori to flutter around. It was a sleek snow-white colored haori with red flames patterned along the border of the sleeves and bottom of the cloak. There were also red falling leaf patterns printed around the haori with the word Sixth Hokage on the back. I also wore long dark red pants and a white dress shirt with dark red buttons. The sleeves were rolled back to my elbows and my shirt was only buttoned to my upper chest. I wore a necklace with the letter H on it and had Muramasa strapped on the left side of my waist with a black-colored leaf forehead protector tied on the sheath. The familiar feature of my blindfold covered my eyes, accentuating my presence. The crowd took in my appearance above them all and I at them, and as if it were truly the beginning of a new dawn and age, the dark clouds in the sky slowly began to part ways and the beams of the sun's rays started to shine down on the world. This scene for some reason caused a feeling of majesty and of new-found hope to surge into the hearts of the people. Tsunade smiled and walked over to me as she handed me the signature hat of the Hokage. I slightly nodded at Tsunade and took the hat in my hands before putting it on. A moment of silence passed by as I gave the crowd a moment to take in the new changes happening, then, I put on a serious expression and addressed the crowd below. "Konoha. I know what you all must be thinking. I know what you all must be feeling. I know because I too have witnessed firsthand the devastating destruction the war has caused. The war has taken so many lives from us. It has taken our brothers, our sisters, our friends, our fathers, our mothers, and our family. It has taken the lives of our lovers, our husbands, and our wives. It has cost us the lives of our people. And while many of us grieve and continue to mourn the death of our brave fallen comrades, I know that many of you still suffer because you are unable to mourn, for the bodies of many of your loved ones have not yet been successfully recovered. Fear not. I promise you this, as the 6th Hokage I will do all I can to recover those that have fallen in the war. I will do all I can to return to you your loved ones so that you can give them the proper farewell that they deserve. The war may have taken many things away from us, but I know that it has not taken our spirit. I know that many of you still have homes left in shambles and ruin. But as the 6th Hokage, I promise you this, I will do all I can to restore your homes to what they were before if not greater. I promise you this, as the 6th Hokage I will do all I can to carry us through this time of great turmoil. I may be young but I do not lack heart. I may be young but I do not lack strength. I may be young but I do not lack our will of fire. Those who have given their lives and fought so bravely in the war did not leave us behind with nothing. The will of fire was with them until the very end. So long as we bear the will of fire within us, then they shall forever live on in our hearts. People of Konoha, do you still bear the will of fire within you? The people of Konoha felt a stirring emotion of hope and power fill them from the inside. It was a strange feeling. There were still dark clouds overcast in the sky, however, there were parts in the sky where the clouds shifted away allowing the beautiful rays of the sun to shine through the darkness. The incredible, heartwarming, and powerful speech that the 6th Hokage was giving ignited something deep within all the people of Konoha. Konoha's people always carried a strong bond of familiarity and passion and pride with each other. With all the turmoil and chaos in the world, it was as if they had forgotten who they were. Like they were lost in a sea of dark storm clouds. However, after hearing Izaya's speech they felt a glimpse of the will of fire reignite within themselves and they all shouted back with a great vigor that seemed to have been lost before. The will of fire lives on inside of us. We have not abandoned the will of fire. As I stood atop the Hokage's building staring down at the crowd below, I silently nodded to myself in approval of the crowd's response. I then continued on. The will of fire lives on in each and every one of us. So long as we do not forget that, we will always have hope. So long as we do not forget that, we will always be able to walk out of the darkness. You are the flames that light the world when all is filled in darkness. Let us not forget the power that we have when we all stand together. So, stand together with me now. As one village and not one person. And together, we can and will burn brighter than any star. The crowd shouted with a newfound vigor of hope and strength. I nodded at the crowd's reaction and remained standing before them for a few more minutes before retreating back into the Hokage's office to finally begin putting my plans into action. I let out a soft sigh as I looked at the Hokage's seat and plopped down. Several mountainous stacks of paperwork piled up as high as the ceiling and were spread around the room. Not long after Tsunade, Shitsune, and the two elders walked in, all with smiles on their faces. Tsunade was the first to break the ice. Izaya, I knew I didn't choose wrong naming you as the 6th. You managed to reinvigorate the entire village with one single speech. Incredible. Koharu and Homura simply nodded in agreement. We talked a bit longer before everyone left the room, all but Shitsune. I tilted my head in confusion. Did you need something, Shitsune? She shook her head. No. Technically I'm still the Hokage's aide. I raised my eyebrow in a bit of surprise before nodding and replied, Shitsune. Like Tsunade, I believe you have already done enough for the village. I appreciate the fact that you would be willing to continue to assist me as the Hokage's aide, however, I believe that Tsunade needs you more. You should be by her side and help facilitate her recovery. From this moment forth, should you wish it, I will relieve you of your duties as the Hokage's aide. Shitsune felt her body tremble before a teardrop fell from her eyes. She quickly wiped it away and bowed, Thank you. Thank you, Izaya. I mean Lord Sixth. I should quickly return to Lady Tsunade's side. Just before she walked out of the room she paused and turned back. Lord Sixth. Before I go, if there is anything I can do please let me know. I thought for a moment before nodding my head. Then, Shitsune, for your last act as an aide, please send a message for an immediate Jonin Council meeting. She quickly nodded and saluted before disappearing. I watched as she disappeared before taking a sweep of the Hokage's office, noting all the troublesome paperwork, and let out a sigh. Well, guess I should get started. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Poof. 20 clones instantly got to work on the paperwork as I stood up and headed towards the conference room where the Jonin meeting would be held. I didn't have to wait long before all the Jonin in the village arrived and settled in. Kakashi walked up to me and said, Lord Sixth, everyone is here. I nodded in appreciation and started my address. Everyone. Now that a chain of command has finally been set in order, it's time we solve the issues that we are currently facing. First, Hatake Kakashi, I hereby promote you to Jonin Commander. Kakashi was surprised but quickly replied, though I am not as competent as the late Jonin Commander Narashikaku, I will do my best to live up to his reputation. I nodded in approval and continued. I name Might Guy as the Vice Jonin Commander. The role of the Jonin Commander and Vice Jonin Commander shall be to oversee Konoha's military. You both shall be in charge of overseeing the training and disciplining of all Jonin and Chunin. You both will also be in charge of receiving all mission requests in the village from D rank to A rank. Only S rank missions will be reserved for the Hokage, to give out. Next is the matter of diplomatic issues. Kimimaro, I assign you the role as Konoha's diplomatic envoy to Iwagakure. Naruto, I am assigning you the role as the diplomatic envoy to Tsunagakure. Choji, I assign you the role as Konoha's envoy to Kumogakure. Haku, I assign you the role as Konoha's diplomatic envoy to Kirigakure. And finally, Neji, I assign you the role as the diplomatic envoy to the Land of Iron. Sai, I appoint you the Chief of Police of Konoha's police force. After the meeting, go discuss with Guy about who will be adequate to join the police task force and draw up a list. Then I want you to begin assigning roles to the task force to help calm public unrest and keep peace and order within the village. Guy, after you finish helping Sai with this task, I want you to take 1/3 of our military strength and return to the battlefields to search for and recover any and all bodies of our fallen comrades. Sakura, you will be tasked with overseeing Konoha's hospital as the head medical chief. I will focus on rebuilding the foundations of the village's homes and other structures. Shikamaru, I name you as the Hokage's aide. That means you will be my advisor. I can only entrust this task to you. Now, if there are any objections, please speak now. Right as I finished giving out my commands, everyone nodded in approval at how quickly and decisively I put things in place. I nodded in appreciation at everyone's understanding and said, Yamato, Kakashi, Sasuke, Iruka, Shikamaru, you all remain behind. Everyone else is dismissed. Yes. Everyone saluted before leaving. The 5 left remaining in the room stood completely silent until Sasuke broke the ice. So, what did you need us for, Izaya? There are some important matters I wish to discuss with you all. You can go afterwards. First, Iruka, with the aftermath of the war, the educational system in the village is at a standstill. I then handed a pile of papers to him before continuing. I believe you are best to manage the rebuilding of the academy. Here are the plans I have for rebuilding, restructuring, and reforming the educational system of the village. I want you to take a look over them and tell me what you think. If they seem reasonable and doable, then I want you to oversee the implementation of these reforms into the academy. Iruka was greatly surprised but quickly nodded and smiled. Yes. I humbly accept honor. I will do my utmost and review these documents, Izaya. I mean Lord 6th. I smiled as I watched Iruka excitedly leave the room to review the documents I handed him. I then turned to Yamato and handed him a letter. Yamato-sensei, I need you to track down Orochimaru and give him this letter. Everyone in the room was shocked at my words as the revelation hit them that Orochimaru was still alive. Only Sasuke was unfazed. Yamato stammered, "Oh, Orochimaru. What? He's still alive. But how? And where is he?" And before Yamato could finish, I cut him off and handed him another letter. Yamato-sensei. I can only entrust this task to you. You'll understand when you read this letter. It'll have all the details pertaining to your mission inside. Don't worry, Orochimaru won't do anything to you. He'll understand once he reads my letter. While his character is questionable, the truth is his skills are still invaluable. Yamato let out a sigh before nodding his head. All right. I'll do my best. I nodded in appreciation as Yamato disappeared from the room. I then turned to Kakashi and said, Kakashi-sensei, not only will you be Jonin commander, but I want you to be acting Hokage. Everyone was incredibly shocked at what I just said. I placed my hand up to stop any of them from saying anything. Let me explain. First, all of you follow me back to the Hokage's office. As we walked in the office, everyone had a weird expression as they saw 20 of my clones going through all the paperwork in the room, neatly organizing them. Not a moment later and they all disappeared in a puff of smoke. I curled my lips in a smile and nodded at the handiwork of my clones. I then returned my attention to Sasuke, Kakashi, and Shikamaru. Now, picking up where I left off. Kakashi, I want you to be acting Hokage. It doesn't mean I'm enacting or appointing you as Hokage, but it means that when I'm not around, you will have the authority to do most of the things that I would need to do. In essence, giving the Hokage seal of approval on all of this paperwork. Having the final say of yes or no in making certain decisions involving the village. Things like these. Kakashi frowned and replied, but, why would you need to give me this kind of authority? Are you implying that you won't be around? I let out a soft sigh before responding. Correct. Now, I'm not saying that I'm abandoning my duties as Hokage, but rather there are things I need to do that go beyond the duties of a Hokage. As the Hokage, I will protect the village at all costs. However, with the events that we witnessed in the Fourth Great Ninja War and with Otsutsuki Kaguya's arrival, we should be well aware that we are not the only ones in this world. There are beings out there that have the potential to become world-level threats. How can I protect the village if there is the potential that the entire world could be put in danger? This is why I am giving you the authority of acting Hokage, Kakashi-sensei. I'll still be around, but just for the times when I'm not, that is when this role will be of use. Plus Shikamaru will be the Hokage's advisor. With you both at the helm, I can rest more easily if and when I decide to go on an extended period of leave to learn more about the Otsutsuki clan and the world. Everyone furrowed their brow in deep focus after hearing what I said and tacitly agreed that this was indeed a smart move. I then turned to Sajuk. This brings me to my next topic. Sajuk, I want you to spend at least a month here in Konoha getting used to the power of your Rinnegan. After that I apologize, but I am assigning you a difficult task. An incredibly dangerous S-rank mission. You are the only one I can trust this mission to. I want you to explore the world and try to find any trace of any remaining white Zetsu and hunt them down. I also want you to look for clues and information on Kaguya and the Otsutsuki clan. Now this doesn't mean that I want you to remain away from the village indefinitely, but this mission of yours will require a lot of your time being spent away from the village. Will you accept? Sajuk furrowed his brow in a moment of silence but ultimately nodded in agreement. I'll do it. This whole thing about Kaguya and the Otsutsuki clan has been bothering me as well. I can't sit around and do nothing. I was planning on going out in the world and looking for clues about the Otsutsuki clan anyways. I nodded in appreciation. I then finally turned to Shikamaru. Shikamaru, the greatest tasks fall on your shoulders. I know this is a lot to ask, but no one else will be able to fulfill these duties other than you. First, my clones have already gone through the pile of paperwork here and have organized them according to their proper categories such as finance, trade and business, missions, construction and infrastructure, educational systems, international information systems, etc. Honestly, I can't believe that all the past Hokages have been doing this work on their own. As the current Hokage, I don't believe this is the correct path for a Hokage to take. A Hokage should not be someone who is swamped by paperwork all day long and night hidden behind a desk. A Hokage should be someone who is deeply involved with the village and its people and pioneer new ways to move the village forward, keeping the village stable. I have decided to reform the system. Shikamaru, for your first task I want you to find suitable people who have experience in these different fields and create a working task force that can effectively process the paperwork according to their areas of expertise. Once it has been processed through their trained eyes and work, then and only then will the final draft of the paperwork be brought to the Hokage's office. As the Hokage, I will look over the final details and ensure that everything makes sense and is in proper order before giving my seal of approval. Then it can be filed into the village's system. Once that is done, I want you to assist me in solidifying the foundations for the Allied Shinobi Force. Shikamaru raised his eyebrows in surprise and remarked, solidifying the foundations of the Allied Shinobi Force. I assume you already have a proposition in mind on how to do it. After all, every village is currently facing an internal crisis. I nodded. That is why I sent diplomatic envoys to each nation. The first major reason is to show that we have not forgotten to show support for one another. The second is to actually provide support where we can. And I have just the means to do so. I will personally journey to each nation and provide assistance in rebuilding their foundations using my wood style if they agree. The third major reason is that, should each nation see that we are doing our best to help each other in this time of need, it will continue to strengthen our bonds. Not only did we fight a war together to save the world, we all lost comrades on the battlefield and felt the same pain. And now, after the war, we didn't forget about each other, but rather we have gone out of our way to provide assistance in any way we can. This will help solidify the notion of the Allied Shinobi Force as a good thing and prevent us from disassembling it. I plan to speak to the other Kage soon about establishing an Allied Shinobi Force headquarters together. Shikamaru tilted his head as he asked, an allied Shinobi force headquarters, where do you plan to build the base? It can't be within the territory of one of the 5 great nations. That could cause problems later down the line. And establishing it in the Land of Iron is too much to ask for the samurai. They could eventually see it as the Shinobi world trying to take over their samurai customs and ways. I nodded at Shikamaru's interjection. Correct. I plan to build it in Amigakyo. Amigakyo. The small nation where the village hidden in the rain is. But, will they allow such a thing? I thought momentarily before responding, I believe they will. First, Amigakyo had always been in a state of poverty due to past wars. Even under Hanza's rule the economy and the land weren't the best. Then there was a civil war and Nagato took over. But after Nagato passed away there have been no stable government head in place. A clone of mine scouted the area a few days ago and the nation is currently in complete unrest. Many different types of people are trying to scramble for power in that region. I don't think this is what Nagato would have wanted for his home nation. I wish to honor Nagato by bringing some form of stability to Amigakyo. I'll go there and speak to the people and do my best to convince them to allow the 5 great nations to build the headquarters of the allied Shinobi forces there. I'll get permission from the other Kijs to grant Amigakyo certain diplomatic immunities through the establishment of the allied Shinobi force. This is also great for Amigakyo because with the allied Shinobi forces headquarters there, international trade routes leading from all 5 nations will flow through their nation and increase the amount of revenue they can generate. If on the off chance that the people of Amigakyo don't accept the building of the ASF HQ there, then we can only look elsewhere. But I'm quite confident my plan will work. Knock knock. HM. We all turned towards the door as I said, enter. At that moment a small boy and old man walked in carrying various stone carving tools and said, ahem ahem. Excuse me Lord Sixth. I am the stone carver for the Hokage faces on the cliffside. I've come to take your measurements. I hope this isn't a bad time. I scratched the side of my cheek awkwardly before turning my attention back at Sasuke, Shikamaru, and Kakashi. Ahem. Well, that'll be all for now. You can be dismissed. The 3 of them nodded and quickly disappeared from the room. The stone carver quickly walked over to me in seriousness with many different tools as he started to measure every angle of my face before commenting, can you take off your blindfold? I'm about to place some clay mold over your face so we can get a small representation of how your face should look on the cliffside. I awkwardly laughed before responding, ahem. Is it possible for you to just carve the blindfold on the cliffside as well? Most people recognize me with the blindfold on. What? You want the blindfold on? HMPF. Alright, well, it's your face going on the cliffside, not mine. He then proceeded to place some clay mold over my face as I inwardly thought, he sure is carefree. In less than an hour my meeting with the stone carver was over as I let out a sigh of relief. I quickly stretched before heading out to the village and started fixing as much of the damaged infrastructure as I could. It wasn't until late at night when I finally finished and returned to the Hokage's quarters, which were now mine. I quickly took a much-needed hot shower from such a long day of work. I let out a deep sigh as I slowly stepped out to dry myself off with a towel and thought, Hanabi and I have been so busy that we haven't gotten to see each other in nearly a week. I want to see her. Warning. Please skip this part if you do not wish to read the rated scene. HM. I turned towards the door to my room and smiled as I felt Hanabi's presence. Is she psychic or something? Always showing up when I need her. I quickly wrapped the towel around my waist and opened the door only to be completely stunned. I gulped down my saliva as I took in what Hanabi was wearing. It was a thin nightgown that was definitely see-through and it showed off her curves perfectly. I quickly snapped out of my daze and dragged her inside, shutting the door behind us before I pinned her to the wall and said, "WH, what are you thinking? Wearing something like that out in public? What if someone saw you?" She smiled teasingly and whispered, "What do you mean? I'm fully clothed." I gritted my teeth and pinned her hands above her head. "Why you? I'll gouge out everyone's eyes who saw you like this." She chuckled playfully before saying, "You're the Hokage now. That's inappropriate." I growled, "And wearing what you're wearing out in public is inappropriate." She tiptoed a bit so she could whisper right in my ear. "Don't worry, I wore a cloak. I only just removed it. I wanted to surprise you." My entire body started to overheat at our close proximity and at having the newfound knowledge that Hanabi wore this just for me. I took a step back as the moonlight shone through the window, illuminating all of her for me to see. It was at this moment that Hanabi also took note of what I was wearing, which was nothing but a towel around my waist. Her breathing grew rapidly and her body began to heat up uncontrollably. Just now she finally took in my full physique. He grew taller, she thought. She involuntarily licked her lips as she took in my full height at 188 centimeters tall. She took in the several droplets of water from my shower earlier dripping down my chest. She gulped as she took note of my abs and muscular frame. And finally, she couldn't take it anymore as she whispered, "Izaya, please." And I lost it at her words of want and desire. Our lips crashed with fervor like we hadn't had water in weeks. Our hands roamed each other's body like we've been starved of human touch for days. I couldn't take it anymore. I wanted her. I needed her. Just so much. Not being able to have any alone time with Hanabi for nearly an entire week was agonizing. Without any restraint I gripped her thin nightgown and ripped it cleanly in half, prompting a shout of surprise from her. The next moment I lifted her off the ground as we disappeared and reappeared on my large king-sized bed from the use of my flying thunder god jutsu. Once again this elicited a shout of surprise from her as she laughed a bit at my impatience. I kissed the nape of her neck and touched every sensitive part of her body in all the places I knew she loved, immediately causing her to shout out loud moans of pleasure. Izaya. Don't he stop? Yes. Her moans and heavy panting struck a fire in me like I never felt before. Her skin was so soft and smooth. Every touch was like caressing the softest silk in the world. It was becoming unbearable to hold back my own arousal, wants, and needs. Hanabi knew this and instantly untied the towel around my waist, throwing it off somewhere into the corner of the room. As she turned her attention back to me, she curiously looked down at my body, causing her face to immediately turn completely red. Her entire body trembled and shuddered in pure pleasure and nervous anticipation as she stammered, "Will it?" I smirked at how beautiful and cute she looked at this moment and softly pushed her disheveled bangs out of her face, caressing the side of her cheeks reassuringly before saying, "I'll be gentle." She slowly nodded and swallowed down her nervousness. And that was the only confirmation I needed as I entered her. Immediately her breath hitched as she sucked in a deep breath at this new feeling of pain and pleasure. I dipped my head down and captured her lips in mine, doing all I could to distract her from the momentary pain she was feeling as I continued to enter her until finally, we were truly and completely connected as one. I nuzzled my face in the nape of her neck as we both rapidly breathed in and out. Our hearts pounded hard against our chests like the beating of giant drums. After some time passed, Hanabi wrapped her arms around my neck and moaned in pure pleasure and impatience, "Please, Izaya." And that was all the permission I needed. I quickly whispered in a heavy breath, "I love you, Hanabi." And I didn't hold back anymore. End of rated scene. 1 month later. I sat in my office and stared out the window that overlooked the village and nodded silently to myself in approval at the rate in which the village was recovering. I had already restored all of the village's damaged residential and infrastructural buildings, and the report guy sent me stated that they had already recovered more than 95% of the missing bodies on the battlefield. I sent a clone to each of the great nations to help them rebuild their own infrastructure, and we are now currently rebuilding new and better domestic and international trade routes. Just last week I was able to convince the people of Amigakure to let the 5 great nations establish the ASF HQ in their country. The negotiations went much better than expected. At that moment the door to my office opened as Shikamaru walked in. "Shikamaru, you're back." "Yeah. It was a pain, but I got all the data and information." I nodded in appreciation. "So, what do the numbers look like?" Shikamaru sighed before replying, "The war really did a number on the villages. The military strength of each village has dropped nearly to half after the war. Before the war, Kumogakure's military might was approximately 17,000 shinobi strong. For Konoha it was 15,000. Iwagakure was 16,000. Kirigakure and Tsunegakure were 11,000, and the land of Iron was 10,000. We went into the war with approximately 80,000 strong shinobi and samurai. But now, after the war, for Kumo it's noted at 8,567. For Konoha it's 7,843. For Iwagakure it's 8,021. Kirigakure is 6,558, Tsunegakure is 6,472, and the land of Iron is 4,733. Collectively the ASF came out of the war with a total of 42,194 shinobi and samurai left. This was without a doubt the most brutal and bloody great ninja war in all of history. There was a moment of silence between us as we both just let the numbers sink in. I let out a sigh before nodding my head in appreciation for Shikamaru's hard work. "Thank you for collecting this data. It's essential for us to know just how much damage was dealt to us after the war. The good news is that Konoha's rate of recovery is going by much faster than I anticipated. The ASF has a place where it can begin building its HQ. Trade routes are being re-established, and I estimate that within the next week we'll have recovered all the bodies of our fallen comrades on the battlefield. At that time we can hold a proper village-wide memorial service in remembrance of them. Then, next month I'll discuss with the other kids about accepting the proposal of the 5 daimyos to hold an international military merit award ceremony. The daimyos are bored and have been continuing to pester us about it. I think they'll be happy to hear that there'll finally be a date set in stone. Plus, this will be good in building relations with the daimyos of the other lands. It'll be great if they can continue to get along like this." Shikamaru nodded in agreement. "That sounds good. Is there anything more you need me to do right now?" I thought for a moment before shaking my head. "Not currently. I'm expecting someone in a little bit here, so you can take a break." Is this someone very important?" Shikamaru inquired curiously. I nodded in seriousness. "Incredibly important." Shikamaru's interest was immediately piqued as he asked, "Who is it?" I paused for a moment before replying, "Yaku Shikabuto." What? Kabuto. He's alive. Wait. Didn't you release the reanimation jutsu by defeating Kabuto? You didn't kill him. I waited for Shikamaru to voice all his questions and doubts before I calmly answered. I did indeed defeat Kabuto and casted a genjutsu on him to release the reanimation. But I also casted a powerful Uchiha forbidden jutsu on him to change his fate. Even though I changed his fate, it doesn't excuse the fact that he played a major role in the reason why many lives were lost in the Fourth Great Ninja War. That is why I am meeting with him. He isn't a free man. But he is a changed man. I am meeting with him to give out his sentence. Shikamaru fidgeted a bit uncomfortably but ultimately let out a deep sigh and nodded his head. Well, you are the sixth Hokage. And we grew up together. I trust your decision, Izaya, but can I at least sit in and be a witness? I nodded and pointed to a seat in the room. That's fine. Make yourself comfortable. Shikamaru nodded in appreciation as a knock on the door could be heard at that moment. Enter. I replied. Kabuto walked in and stood before me completely cloaked to hide his look and said, Izaya. No. Rather I should now call you the sixth Hokage. I nodded. It's been a while, Kabuto. He nodded back and took a seat. Lord Sixth. I know that the crimes I have committed cannot be pardoned. Many shinobi lives were lost because of me. I am prepared to serve any sentence you give. I won't run away from this responsibility. I am ready to atone for my sins. Amen. Kabuto. So you have finally come to terms with who you are and are no longer trying to impersonate someone else. I'm glad to see this. But you are right, the crimes you committed during the war cannot be so easily pardoned, therefore, your sentence shall be a lifetime of servitude assisting the allied shinobi forces in all things that it would require of you. Once the ASF HQ is built, then that is where you shall be stationed. You will spend the rest of your life repenting for your sins by assisting the ASF in trying to do good, whether that requires you to perform charity work, research, or giving educational instruction, etc. Kabuto nodded. I am prepared. Thank you for your leniency. I let out a soft sigh before instructing, then returned to Orochimaru's side for the time being. Once the ASF HQ is built, a messenger will be sent to retrieve you. You are dismissed. As Kabuto left, Shikamaru turned to me with a look of curiosity and said, So, you've decided that Kabuto is to serve the ASF, huh? Is that a wise move? I nodded without hesitation. Yes. Kabuto has affected the lives of not only Konoha but the entire world. Konoha alone does not have the right to hold him accountable. Him serving the ASF will allow for all the great nations to monitor him. And with Kabuto working for the ASF, then all the great nations will benefit. Shikamaru pondered quietly to himself for a moment before asking a bit doubtfully, did he really turn a new leaf? I mean, he does seem different and his aura doesn't feel that creepy anymore, but does someone really just turn a new leaf like that? I smirked. Don't underestimate the power of the Uchiha's forbidden jutsu. It came at a high price. I reckon that other than me, no one else alive knows how to use this forbidden jutsu. It's not a jutsu that can just be used whenever I want. Most likely I will never cast it ever again. Now Shikamaru was truly curious as to exactly what kind of forbidden jutsu this was, but just elected to let it go and trust in the sixth Hokage. Knock knock. HM. Both Shikamaru and I turned our attention back to the door as I replied, Enter. As the door opened, it revealed to be Iruka. Oh. Iruka, what are you doing here? Shikamaru asked. I came by to tell Lord Sixth that the new academy building is completely finished now and can begin accepting new students as soon as next week. I widened my eyes in surprise and smiled as I replied, that was much faster than I expected. Everyone must have put in a lot of time, work, and effort to get the academy back up and running this quickly. I'm glad to hear that. Excellent work on managing everything, Iruka. Iruka simply shook his head. No. Thank you, Lord Sixth. It's because of you that the village can get back on its feet so quickly, and it's thanks to your ideas that the academy will now have a much more comprehensive system in place. I simply smiled and nodded my head. Well, I'm glad everything went as planned. Then, go ahead and start open enrollment for the academy. Yes. Iruka responded excitedly as he saluted before taking his leave. Shikamaru turned to me and said, looks like everything is going well so far. That's good. I nodded in agreement. Yes. It is. Darkness soon blanketed the sky as night rolled around the corner. I stood atop the Hokage stone faces and looked to my left where the process of constructing my own face was being held in progress. It was at that moment that I took note of a peculiar crow flying around in the distance before it dived down into a deep and dark forest. I furrowed my brow as a feeling of curiosity tugged at me. In less than a moment's notice I had disappeared from where I was standing and stood at the edge of the dark forest. Without hesitation I walked inside, taking in the sight before me. Dense trees and large bushes. Lush green leaves and beautiful wild flowers strewn about the forest floor. I wandered around for a bit before I took note of a small lake hidden within a small clearing of the forest. The moonlight illuminated the water, creating a sparkling effect as if it were filled with shimmering diamonds. The odd thing was that there was a tree in the middle of the lake. It wasn't huge, but it wasn't small either. It was incredibly ancient looking and seemed as if it had withstood the erosion of time. I walked right up to the edge of the lake but paused and simply stared at the old tree centered in the middle of the lake. It was at that moment I heard loud cawing noises prompting me to look all around me. In the trees all around the lake were black crows neatly perched as they stared down at me in curiosity. Oh! A human! I heard a voice say. I narrowed my eyes and turned my attention back to the old tree where I heard the voice come from. At that moment a three-legged crow flew out of the old ancient tree and perched right on top of it as it stared directly at me with its golden eyes. I raised my eyebrow in curiosity and said, "And who do I have the pleasure of meeting?" There was a moment of silence between us before the crow responded, "I am called Yatagarasu. The Lord of all Crows. It's been a while since I've last seen or spoken to a human. You did well to find this place. The Lord of all Crows. My apologies, I had no idea I was in the presence of someone as esteemed as yourself. I am Karasuma Izaya. It's an honor to make your acquaintance. I came by this place by chance. That's all. Yes. Through my crows I happen to know who you are. You are the current Hokage, are you not? I nodded in response. Correct. I am the 6th Hokage. I see. Well, 6th Hokage Izaya, our meeting here can be said to be one of chance. Perhaps even fate. The last person I ever spoke to was Uchiha Itakai. I slightly flinched at the revelation that this crow knew Itakai. You knew Uchiha Itakai? Core. Yes. Itakai formed a contract with my kind. That is how he can summon crows. He and I have met on several occasions. An interesting human he was. I mourn his death to this day. I pondered to myself a bit before asking, Lord Garasu, might I make a presumptuous request of you? Yatagarasu tilted its head to the side before cawing and responded, what is it that you wish of me, child? Would it be possible to make an exchange? Oh! What kind of exchange? If you are willing to give me 3 crows, I will do my best to give you something of your request that you deem equal in exchange. A moment of silence passed between us as I felt a bit nervous for requesting something that seemed completely out of the ordinary from the Lord of all Crows. However, Yatagarasu quickly replied, interesting. Very interesting. Very well. I shall make you a counter offer. I shall give you 6 crows. Do with them as you will. I will also let you sign a summoning contract with us crows. In return, I want you to pass on to me the formula for the 8 trigram sealing jutsu and allow me to pay a visit to the corpse of Uchiha Itakai at least once so that I may send him my farewell. I flinched a little inside at the unexpected development. I never imagined that not only would this Lord of all Crows accept my offer, he made a counter-offer. But why would he want the formula for the 8 trigram sealing jutsu? It's only useful for sealing chakra into something. And what is his purpose for wanting to visit the corpse of Itakai? It can't really be to just send him a farewell, can it? I pondered for a bit, thinking about what kind of ramifications this might have, but couldn't really think of one, so I nodded and replied, very well. I will give you the formula for the 8 trigram sealing jutsu, however you must promise never to teach it to another. As for Itakai, I will allow you to visit his corpse once, but within my presence. Are these terms agreeable? Yatagarasu caught amiably as he replied, Amen. Then let us exchange. I quickly signed a contract with the crows as 6 crows flew down to my side. I then quickly wrote the formula for the 8 trigram sealing jutsu on a scroll and handed it over to Lord Garasu. Lord Garasu. This scroll, once you open it, it will not close. You will only have 30 seconds to memorize its content. Afterwards it will immediately be destroyed. Should you open it within the presence of another, I have rigged the scroll to immediately self-destruct. Please forgive me for my precaution. Lord Garasu simply caught. No matter. I understand your desire to protect the precious knowledge of your village. I have no hidden agenda to share this technique with anyone, so it matters not. I nodded in appreciation for his understanding and continued, as for the matter of Itakai, how about next week on the full moon at midnight? Fly to the top of the Hokage rock faces of Konoha and I will be there waiting for you. Lord Garasu flapped its wings amiably before replying, Amen. Very well. He then flew in a circle before re-entering the old and ancient-looking tree in the center of the lake. I stood there at the edge of the lake in complete silence and couldn't shake the feeling that this entire ordeal was a bit too mysterious and perhaps too coincidental. Could it be that Lord Garasu purposefully led me here? He knew what he wanted from me a bit too quickly and knew that only I could give him what he wanted. I let out a sigh, since thinking about it anymore wouldn't really get me anywhere, and walked off as the 6 crows followed above me. Just as I made it out of the forest's edge, I turned back to look behind me, noting that the structure of the forest had shifted and changed. Ha! I said simply before turning my attention to the 6 crows before me. Now then, you 6 will be my eyes in the sky. Time skip 2 years. I sat in complete silence within the Hokage's office as I stared at the calendar before me in deep contemplation. The seconds slowly trickled by, with the only sounds being the tapping of my fingers on the table and the clock on the wall ticking away. I finally let out a loud sigh, speaking to no one in particular. What am I going to do? Naruto and Hinata's wedding is coming up soon. So many people want to attend, but how am I going to decide who gets to go? I totally skimmed this part in my past life and went right to the end. Plus, things aren't exactly the same as they were as I remembered them. And on top of that I feel sort of guilty. As the feelings of guilt and frustration welled up inside of me, I turned to look at the picture on my desk. It was a picture of Hanabi and I as we happily walked through the gardens of Konoha. Hanabi, I'm sure a lot of people thought that Hanabi and I would get married first, but things have just been so hectic. As the Hokage, I had to deal with all the problems and issues related to the village and those related outside of the village. As for Hanabi, she's been busy by taking up most of the responsibilities the Hyuga clan head would have in preparation for when she actually takes over. I sighed once more as I thought to myself, we haven't had the time to really sit down and talk about our future together. I still love her more than anything, but things haven't calmed down until just recently. After 2 long years, the village is finally not only stable, but starting to prosper. The ASFHQ has been established and the relations between all 5 great ninja villages is better than ever. But before I even had the chance to ask Hanabi to marry me, Naruto proposed to Hinata first. Everyone is currently focused on their wedding, so it would be weird for Hanabi and I to get married around the same time. It might make for an awkward situation where people might not know whose wedding to focus on. I'll have to wait until after Naruto and Hinata's wedding. I promise you, Hanabi, I said as I glanced at the ring box next to our picture. I was brought out of my mental thoughts as a voice spoke within my mind at that moment. A voice that I haven't heard in a long time. Senko's voice. Izaya. It took longer than I had anticipated, but I've recovered to the point where I no longer need to take any energy from you. You should feel that after all this time, having only access to half of your chakra reserves, you've only grown stronger. Now with your full chakra reserves back, your chakra pool is massive. No less than that of a tailed beast's. I was still momentarily dazed at Senko's sudden interjection, but quickly recovered and happily rejoiced. Senko, you're finally awake. It's about time. Yes. I apologize for taking so much of your energy all this time. Then have you finally fully recovered? I can't say that I have. I've recovered to the point where I can freely speak with you. However, I am still unable to move about on my own. I can't yet detach from your body. And truthfully, I may never be able to recover to the point where I can truly detach from your body, but one can hope. I slightly frowned at Senko's comment. Senko, how did you get so injured? A moment of silence filled the room before Senko answered. A long while back you asked me how I knew about the Otsutsuki clan and Kaguya. I nodded as that memory resurfaced. Right. But we didn't have a lot of time then, since we were in the middle of fighting Kaguya. Back then you mentioned something about the Heavenly Ocean Sage Oya Tatsumi, the Otsutsuki clan, and something about the Heavenly Purge. What is all of that? Oh. I'm surprised. Has your brother Haku not told you anything about the Heavenly Ocean Sage Oya Tatsumi after all this time? Surely he would know a thing or two by now. Well, he has mentioned some things. But even Haku doesn't know much. From what we can gather, Oya Tatsumi came from a place called the Heavenly Plane. He uses a special power called Heavenly Sage Mode. It's a power that is even greater than Sage Mode and can grant one the strength to move mountains and create oceans. Something happened in the Heavenly Plane that forced Oya Tatsumi to flee, and somehow he ended up here on this planet. That's about as far as we've gotten. After Oya Tatsumi lent Haku some power during our fight against Kaguya, according to Haku, he fell into a deep slumber to recover his power. My guess is that he must have been gravely injured like you were, Senko. By the way, doesn't that mean you also come from this so-called heavenly plane? Senko took a moment to soak in everything I said before responding. I see. So Oya Tatsumi must have been gravely injured as well. That does make sense. And yes, you are correct. I am indeed a being that came from the heavenly plane. I furrowed my brow in deep thought and interest. Care to elaborate? Senko let out a long sigh. Ha, very well. I will do my best to narrate to you the events that have happened and have led up to this point. But it is quite long, so be prepared. I simply nodded. Senko pondered for a moment as he thought about where to start. I suppose, an introduction is where I shall begin. Whatever you thought I was before, you can forget about it. What I truly am is a divine phoenix. My race comes from a place known as the heavenly plane. Before I delve more into it, tell me, how much do you know about the Otsutsuki clan? I frowned at Senko's question and thought about it for a bit before shaking my head. Honestly, I don't know much. From what I can garner, they are beings that come from outside of this world. They should be incredibly powerful and likely have some sort of hierarchical order within their clan. Please enlighten me. Senko let out a soft sigh. Well, I don't blame you for having limited knowledge of their clan. The Otsutsuki clan. Where do they come from? Why are they in your world? Why do they seek to destroy it? What is their purpose? Very well, I shall enlighten you. Tell me, what is the Sharingan? I raised my eyebrow at Senko's sudden change in the direction of his narrative, but decided that if Senko was asking, then it must somehow be related. I thought about the question he asked before responding. The Sharingan is a powerful dojutsu and Keki-e Genkai. It's related to the Rinnegan and Rin Sharingan. And I guess somehow related to the Otsutsuki clan. Senko just let out another deep sigh. Ha! I scratched the side of my cheek awkwardly. Hey, that was an honest answer. If you don't like it, you could just tell me straight up. Don't you know that storytelling is more interesting when you are one of the participants? Just as I was about to answer, Senko chimed in with a defeated voice, never mind. I shall ask and answer my own questions. Just listen well, youngling. Ahem. Where to begin? The Sharingan. You all have many different terms for Sharingan, such as the copy wheel eye, mirror wheel eye, the eyes that reflect the heart, or heaven's eye. The truth is that the heaven's eye is the closest term to the truth. The Sharingan is the eye that reflects the heavens. It may seem auspicious, but it has such a bloody history. After the Sharingan, one awakens the Mangekyo Sharingan. Then the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. It then becomes the Rinnegan or the Samsara Eye, otherwise known as the Eye of Life and Death. And finally, after the Rinnegan is born the Rin Sharingan, otherwise known as the Samsara Eyes that reflects the heavens. They are so named because they are a power that belonged to the rulers of the heavenly plane. The heavenly plane is the highest dimension of the universe where beings akin to gods reside. There were many races that belonged to the heavenly plane, such as my own race. Even the toads of Mount Myoboku, the snakes of Ryuchi Cave, and the slugs of Shikotsu Forest are somewhat descendants from the heavenly plane. It was once a place that flourished with color and joy, but now it is a place of murder, darkness, thieves, oppression, and tyranny. Before I explain further, you must also come to understand what the Bakugan is. The Bakugan is also known as the all-seeing white eyes. They are the distinct feature of the Otsutsuki clan. The Otsutsuki clan was a servant to the rulers of the heavenly plane, and they had various positions imparted to them, but the most common was to act as sentinels due to the power of their eyes. To better understand their status, I will use the shinobi system you are familiar with. To compare, the sole ruler of the heavenly plane would be equivalent to the leader of the 5 Kage. Something like the supreme commander of your allied shinobi force during the war. The elders of the ruling clan would be equivalent to the position of the other Kage. Then all the relatives of the ruling clan would have the equivalent status to what you shinobi call jonin. The Otsutsuki clan would have a status equivalent to what you shinobi call chunin and genin. Then what was the name of the clan that ruled the heavenly plane? That clan was known as the Amenominate Kanishi Heavenly Clan. I was immediately lost on the long name that Senko just said and involuntarily interjected, "Wait. The what heavenly clan?" Senko just let out a sigh. The Amenominate Kanishi Heavenly Clan. Don't interrupt please, it is a long story. Now, where was I? Oh yes. The emperor of the royal clan was called Taiyao. Amenominate Kanishi Taiyao. Now what does this all mean? Well, all members of the Amenominate Kanishi clan, or royal clan, possessed either the Rin Sharingan or some derivative of it such as the Rinnegan and etc. The Otsutsuki clan served directly under the royal clan. One day the prince and heir to the royal clan fell in love with the daughter of the Otsutsuki clan's patriarch. She, however, did not love him in return. The Otsutsuki clan saw this as an opportunity to overthrow the royal clan and attempted to force her to be with him. She refused at first until the clan told her of their plan to overthrow the royal clan. Although she held no hatred for the royal clan, she loved her father the patriarch dearly and wished to be of use to him, so she agreed to be with the prince. One day she and the prince had a child. That child, named Kaguya, was born with the powers of both the strange and unique Bakugan and the Rin Sharingan. The power that he possessed was unlike any ever seen before. As she raised her child alongside the prince, she unknowingly began to fall in love with him. By then the child Kaguya had already grown old enough to learn and wield his power. Torn between choosing the prince and her own father caused her endless grief and sorrow. She was also far along her second pregnancy at that time. Without knowing what to do or who to choose, she elected to leave the clan and the prince with her son, Kaguya. The elders of the Otsutsuki clan discovered her plans and imprisoned her before she could escape without the knowledge of their patriarch. Since Kaguya, born of the union between both the royal clan and the Otsutsuki clan, had already learned to wield his power, the Otsutsuki clan gathered their most skilled and powerful members to kill the royal prince in a sinister plot. After they succeeded, they planted false evidence and blamed it on the royal clan to win over Kaguya's favor. In his rage, he helped the Otsutsuki clan wage war against the royal clan. It was also during this time that the patriarch discovered that the elders had made movements behind his back and even imprisoned his own daughter without his knowledge. He rescued his daughter from imprisonment and helped her through the birth of her second child. Due to the stress on her mind, body, and heart, she did not survive the process. She had only lived long enough to name her child. That child's name was Kaguya. Otsutsuki Kaguya. The patriarch made arrangements for Kaguya to be part of the Otsutsuki clan without anyone's knowledge after learning what the elders had planned for him, his daughter, and Kaguya. In order to ensure Kaguya's safety, he staged a scene where it would look like his daughter committed suicide with her unborn child. With victory of the war around the corner, the elders had plotted and killed the patriarch. After Kaguya won the war for the Otsutsuki clan, the news of his mother and grandfather's death reached him. Overcome with grief, he returned to the clan with much haste, but what was awaiting him was only an ambush. In his battle-worn state he was unable to utilize his full power and was killed. And the reason he was killed was due to the fact that he carried the bloodline of the royal clan in him. The Otsutsuki clan then raided the ocular powers of the royal clan for themselves. However, they were not of the royal clan's blood, and so their powers and lifespan were not infinite. While they can live a long time, the lifespan of other beings in the heavenly plane were even longer. Compared to the royal clan and other beings such as my own races, the lifespan of the Otsutsuki clan was but a small fraction. And while they gained tremendous power by stealing the ocular powers of the royal clan, the drawback was that it would shorten their life. In order to combat this unexpected result, they began destroying and pillaging resources and energy all over the heavenly plane to create their so-called medicine. All creatures of the heavenly plane who did not bow down to them were annihilated. We call this event the Heavenly Purge. With their Bakugan and the ocular powers they raided from the royal clan, their strength was unmatched. Many in the heavenly plane lost their lives and homes to the greed of the Otsutsuki clan. My race was one of the most noble and powerful amongst those in the heavenly plane. However, there were not many of us. Outnumbered and outmatched by the many Rin Sharingan and Rinnegan powers they possessed, my race was annihilated. I'm afraid I may be the only one left of my kind in existence. After the Otsutsuki clan thinned out the resources of the heavenly plane, they had finally realized that the plane could not recover fast enough to satiate their greed. To solve this problem, they began descending to the lower realms and raided from those places when they became ripe with energy. The numbers of their clan are not infinite. There exists many lower realms, and that is why on average only 2 of their members are sent to explore a realm at a time. Kaguya was sent to this realm, your realm. She possesses the bloodline of the royal clan unbeknownst to herself and the Otsutsuki clan. These are the secrets behind the Otsutsuki clan. Because Kaguya has the blood of the royal clan flowing through her, so too do her descendants. Hagoromo, Hamura, the Senju, Uchiha, Uzumaki, and Hyuga. Those who possess the strong bloodline of the royal clan do not need to take the eyes of their brothers and sisters to gain the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, just as Higoromo did not need to steal another's eye in order to obtain his eternal Mangekyo. And it is because of his royal blood that he was able to awaken the Rinnegan. But after Hagoromo, the bloodline of his descendants became too diluted, where not enough of their blood was pure enough to naturally awaken their eyes into the Rinnegan. Not even awakening the eternal Mangekyo was possible. This is why the Uchiha need the eyes of a close relative, to further strengthen and accentuate the diluted royal blood within them to evolve their eyes to the next stage. The Zatsuki clan do not naturally possess the Rinnegan, but they have over time learned how they could create it. After the fall of the royal clan, their last act in desperation was to disperse their power into divine trees, hoping that one day the fruit it bears would provide the power necessary for another being to fight back against the Otsutsuki clan. Unfortunately, it took too much time for the tree to absorb energy and create a chakra fruit. On top of that, these divine trees were not auspicious. They had to first drain the lives and energy of countless beings before it would bear any fruit. The Otsutsuki clan, after plundering the resources of the heavenly plane, descended to the lower planes and discovered the scattered power of the royal clan, the divine trees. They began to wait in station around the divine trees on different planets and dimensions, as the trees will over time sprout chakra fruit that contain small traces of the royal clan's blood, which will allow the one who eats it to gain the eyes of the Rin Sharingan or Rinnegan and extend their lifespans. I simply had a blank expression on my face as I was completely shocked at everything Senko had relayed to me, that I didn't know what kind of expression I should make. I never could have imagined that the Otsutsuki clan had such a background. After taking a moment to let everything sink in, I frowned in seriousness. Senko, then, what happened to the heavenly plane? What about the Otsutsuki there? Since you mentioned them having a hierarchical system and they happen to be a clan, do they have a clan head? After all, according to your story they killed their last patriarch. Senko nodded. MN. All good questions. Yes. They have members in higher positions than others, just like a clan. And indeed they have a clan patriarch. I am unsure of who it is at the moment, but they undoubtedly have one. And that patriarch of theirs is most likely situated on the throne within the heavenly plane. I don't know what state the heavenly plane is currently in, as I fled from it eons ago, but I reckon it continues to remain a desolate wasteland. I frowned even more as I took this all in. I looked down in front of me and saw the calendar noting when Naruto and Hinata's wedding was going to be, and sighed. This is too much to take in. Just a few moments ago I was struggling to figure out how I was going to deal with granting people attendance at the wedding. But that all seems so trivial now after what Senko just told me. I closed my eyes and took a few deep breaths before turning back to look at the picture of Hanabi and I on my desk. Next to that picture was the picture of Team 11. I smiled as I thought about what Kimimaro and Haku were up to right now. Kimimaro's been spending a lot of time in Iwagakure. Seems he and the 4th Sushikage, Kurotsuchi, have been getting along quite well. As for Haku, after I took over as the 6th Hokage, I revisited Haiden, who was still held prisoner deep underneath the Anbu compound. After looking through his memories and killing him with my Rinnegan, I sent Haku on an S-rank mission in search for these other Jashin cultists. Not only was Haku successful in his mission, he had saved a young woman named Akane, who surprisingly was a surviving member of the Uzumaki clan. I left Haku in charge of overseeing her well-being. They both seem pretty busy now. Izaya? Senko questioned, snapping me out of my thoughts and reminding me of everything Senko had just told me. I just let out a soft sigh and whispered, well, no use fretting over it right now. I only need to do what I can do. And I should first focus on the tasks before me. All of this Otsutsuki stuff will have to wait. Speaking of Otsutsuki stuff. Flashback 3 days ago. 5-Kage Summit. A large fortress stood atop the land of a well-guarded area in Amigakure. This was precisely the Allied Shinobi Force headquarters. After its construction had been completed, the 5 great nations had decided to use it as the meeting point for all future 5-Kage summits. In this way the Shinobi world would not continue to interfere with or intrude upon the territory of the samurai. At the centermost point of the fortress was a large conference room where the 5-Kage sat around a circular table as their advisors stood behind them. These 5-Kage were Kumogakure's Derue, the 5th Reikage. Iwagakure's Kurotsuchi, the 4th Sushikage. Tsunegakure's Gaara, the 5th Kazekage. Kirigakure's Chojuro, the 6th Mitsukage. And myself, Izaya, as Konohigakure's 6th Hokage. At this moment a contraption above us began to move and project an image of the moon moving closer and closer to Earth as the large pieces of rock began to break off from the moon's gravity and enter Earth's orbit. A scientific researcher also began her very serious explanation of how grave the situation was becoming. As the researcher was explaining, she finally concluded, I believe that parts of the moon's surface is breaking apart and entering Earth's atmosphere. We all frowned as Chojuro asked, then what will happen exactly? The researcher had a grave look on her face as she said, the moon will continue to completely disintegrate until nothing is left as all of its being rains down over Earth. If nothing is done, then all of humankind may perish. Gaara furrowed his brow in deep contemplation as he said, "Is this a natural phenomenon? Or is it a man-made assault?" I closed my eyes as I searched through the memories of my past life. My knowledge of the Naruto universe is becoming limited. Things have greatly changed from what they were before, but some events are still happening. This must be Tonari's doing. This is the last major event in the Naruto universe that I have knowledge on. After this I'll truly be in the dark. Well, not that it matters, as I have decided to continue doing things my own way. I'll face these problems and make decisions my own way. After completing my thought process, I turned to the other kids and said, "My fellow kids. To be honest, it is a bit unthinkable that the moon would begin to fall towards Earth so suddenly as an act of natural phenomenology. If I were to guess, I'd bet on this event as one being done on purpose with some sort of hidden agenda." The other kids frowned in seriousness as they agreed at my analysis. Kurotsuchi then chimed in, "But who would have such power that they could cause the moon to fall?" A moment of silence passed between us before I said with hidden meaning, "If you truly think about everything that has happened thus far in the Shinobi world, can you truly think of no one?" This elicited all the kids to slightly flinch, as they all thought the same thing at that moment. Derue narrowed his eyes in seriousness as he replied, "The Otsutsuki clan." I nodded. "Correct. It must be someone related to the Otsutsuki clan." Kurotsuchi gritted her teeth and clicked her tongue in frustration. "Damn. And we have no way to approach the moon. Nor do we have a way to stop the moon's approach. What are we supposed to do then?" I let out a soft sigh. "For now, let us continue to monitor the situation. While the moon is on a track to collide with the Earth, we are not yet at a critical junction. If this is the doing of the Otsutsuki clan, then they must have some ulterior motive. I have a feeling they'll show themselves before long. If and when they do reveal themselves, that is when we make our move. If they don't reveal themselves before the critical junction, then there is still Sasuke and Naruto. It's possible that if Naruto and Sasuke pool together their chakra, then Sasuke might be able to correct the gravitational alignment of the moon with his Rinnegan. That will be our plan B. If that is impossible, then there is still Haku. He's been undergoing strict training to master Heavenly Sage mode. While he hasn't quite become a perfect Heavenly Sage, it is possible that he might be able to do something about this disaster. That will be our plan C." The other kids let out a sigh of worry and frustration before nodding their heads. The meeting came to an end soon after. End flashback. Just as I snapped out of my thoughts and prepared to look over some other documents, I slightly flinched in surprise. I furrowed my brow as I took note of an intruder near the Hyuga residence. "So, you've come at last, Tonari," I whispered to myself before instantly disappearing from the Hokage's office. Somewhere in the village under the cover of night, a person dashed and expertly maneuvered around with great stealth and secrecy. This was exactly Tonari. As he quickly dashed around in search of Hinata, several other shadowy figures fell from the sky, dashing throughout the village. These were highly advanced and special puppets under his control. These puppets quickly made their way to the Hyuga residence as they searched for Hanabi. Hanabi stretched and yawned as she had just finished overlooking some political documents as part of her duty in preparation to take over the clan head position. "I wonder what Izaya is up to right now," she pondered as she opened one of the many doors within the Hyuga compound. However, she was immediately startled at what she saw before her. There was a person cloaked in strange clothing right in front of her. Just as it stretched out its hand to grab her, she activated her Bakugan and shouted, 8 trigrams palms revolving heaven. Boom! She performed a quick rotation, creating a powerful chakra sphere to burst out around her, effectively thrusting the intruder through the walls of the compound and out into the courtyard. She frowned as she stared at the tattered form of the intruder out in the courtyard that was now in shambles. A puppet. Just as she completed her sentence in confusion, 10 more puppets appeared, completely surrounding her in their entrapment. She frowned and prepared for a fierce battle. However, before anyone could make a single move, a quick flash came and left. Hanabi simply widened her eyes in surprise and shock as she was now standing in the middle of the Hokage's office. Izaya. I smirked at her cute startled expression and tapped her shoulder behind her. She quickly turned and embraced me in a tight hug, to which I wholeheartedly welcomed, but in the next instant she flicked my forehead. "Ow!" I replied. She pouted. "You startled me." I simply smiled at her. "Sorry. I won't let anyone hurt you." She nodded before letting out a sigh. All right. I know." She smiled back and said, "Go, the village needs you. I'll get yelled at if I hog you all to myself." I smirked. "Okay. Be right back." I poked her nose before instantly disappearing from the room. At this moment Tonari stood on a tall tree in the forest as he watched Hyuga Hayashi clutch his injured shoulder, surrounded by several tens of puppets. As he stared down at the injured Hyuga head, he said, "Do you concede?" Hayashi gritted his teeth without responding, prompting one of the puppets to create a giant orb of golden light and shoot it straight at him. Tonari had already sensed where Hinata's presence was and was just about to go to her after dealing with Hayashi. However, the scene before him didn't play out as he had expected. Right as the golden orb of light was about to hit Hayashi, it instantly disappeared and in its place was me instead. Hayashi breathed out a sigh of relief as I turned to him and asked, "Are you all right, Lord Hayashi?" Hayashi smiled and replied, "I'll live thanks to you, Lord 6th. I shook my head at his answer. "Please, there's no need for you to be so formal in front of me. It may be presumptuous of me, but I'd like to think that we are family." I then turned serious as I focused my attention back on Tonari and said, "Lord Hayashi, I'll handle it from here. Get some rest." Without waiting for his response, I placed my hand on his shoulder and teleported him to safety. Tonari stared at me with a bit of a surprised expression and said, "If it isn't the 6th Hokage. To think that you were able to find me so quickly. I wonder how you accomplished that." I made sure that I was undetectable. Even Konoha's barrier could not detect my presence. I stared indifferently at Tonari and responded, "Indeed, Konoha's barrier couldn't detect you. Even now I can't detect your presence. It's an impressive technique, whatever you're using." Tonari furrowed his brow. "Then how did you find me exactly?" At that moment the cawing of a crow could be heard in the sky. It flew in circles above us as it stared down at the village below. Several black chakra receiver rods were embedded in its body as its eye reflected that of my Rinnegan. Tonari frowned. Was it because of that crow? I let Tonari mull over his thoughts for a bit before asking, "You must be the one causing the moon to approach Earth's orbit. Am I correct?" Tonari slightly flinched at my statement. "Interesting. Your intuition serves you well." "Correct. I am the one doing so." "Why?" "Heh. I have watched from the moon all this time what the world of Shinobi is like. The world that was left behind by one of my ancestors, Hagoromo. It has become clear to me that Shinobi do not understand the meaning of chakra. All Shinobi do is war with one another and cause endless suffering and grief." "You speak as if humanity has made no progress." If what you say is true and you've watched events unfold from the moon, you would know that not only have Shinobi banded together, we are now working towards stabilizing peace. Peace. You call this peace? I have watched for a long time. This peace is only temporary. Soon the world of Shinobi will war once more. And their abuse of chakra will be fueled by their innate desire of greed for power. It sounds to me like you are only making up an excuse to justify your actions. You sound just like Kaguya. Your ancestor Hagoromo and Hamura fought with all their being to stop Kaguya. Even after Hagoromo passed away, his spirit remained and returned during the Fourth Great Ninja War to assist the allied Shinobi forces in stopping Kaguya from destroying all of humankind and Shinobi. You speak as if you understand the intentions of your ancestors, but I question whether you have truly taken the time to think about them. Why are you really here? For the moment, let us say that you truly believe that it is your duty to destroy humankind. You could have simply waited for the moon to crash into Earth. Why show yourself unless you have some other hidden agenda? Tonari smiled at my analysis and replied, truly. You are a very perceptive individual. I don't need to explain myself to you. Hagoromo and Hamura are my ancestors. Not yours. Because I respect your intelligence, I will tell you why I am here before killing you. Long ago I was promised Hyuga Hinata's hand in marriage. I am here to take her away before the moon and earth collide. I shook my head. Do you truly think Hinata would accept something like that? You should know by now that Hinata and Naruto are set to marry very soon. They love each other. Your abduction of her won't change her feelings. She won't come to love you. Especially with the way you're doing things. Tonari frowned. I am doing things according to Hamura's will. And I am taking away what was rightfully promised to me. I love Hinata. Once she sees my devotion to her, she will come to love me as well. You are deluding yourself. I won't let you take her away. She is my sister-in-law. However, there is no need for you and humankind to quarrel. If possible, I would like to settle this peacefully. Take me to the moon. It is my understanding that the moon is where Hamura's last resting place was. I don't doubt that he was any less powerful than Hagoromo. If that is the case, then surely his soul can also transcend time and space and allow us to communicate with him should we truly wish it. Tonari frowned. You have a way with words, Sixth Hokage. I won't stand to listen to any more of your nonsense. He then turned to his puppets and said, kill him. I simply smirked, noting that Tonari and his puppets were all within range of my jutsu. The moment Tonari finished giving out his command, he instantly felt fear well up inside of him. A fear like no other. This fear stemmed from the fact that his soul instantly felt as if it had landed in the center of a cage filled with bloodthirsty, raging mad beasts that knew nothing but murder. He was even more fearful because that was the last thought and feeling his mind and body could process before his entire being froze, completely still in time. All the puppets that had me surrounded didn't even have a chance to move as they remained completely frozen in time. I stood in the center of all of them with Muramasa drawn in my hands. After all this time, my aura had finally completely mixed together with Muramasa, where I had complete control over its power. The murderous aura and killing intent that Tonari felt was precisely because I had unsheathed Muramasa from its hilt. And the reason why everything had frozen perfectly still in time was precisely the power of my right Rinnegan, Kanigara no Michi. It was an extremely powerful technique that allowed me to freeze the time of anything within 5 meters of me for exactly 3 seconds. Of course, the drawback was a 30-second time interval before the next activation was possible. It may seem like a 30-second time interval was short, but in a battle against extremely powerful opponents many things can happen in 30 seconds. Without wasting a second of time I expertly slashed out with Muramasa before quickly placing it back in its hilt. The murderous aura instantly disappeared and all the puppets were completely destroyed. And finally, time around me began to move once more. Tonari's heart pounded unbearably hard in his chest at the scene that just played out. One moment he felt extreme fear and in the next, that fear was gone. He couldn't understand what had happened. It never occurred to him that time was frozen for him and his puppets as all of his senses were also frozen. He simply recalled giving out his order and then feeling a fear like none other before that fear disappeared and all his puppets were destroyed. He glanced over at me noting that I hadn't moved a single inch from my spot and asked with a hint of wariness and fear, "What did you do just now?" I smirked as I replied, "I told you. I would like to settle this peacefully. If you take me to the moon I'm sure we can find traces of Hamura's soul. Why don't you make a final decision after that? As for the matter of Hinata, why not observe her a bit longer? If you truly love her then you would want nothing but for her happiness. See for yourself if she is truly happy being with Naruto. If she is, then I ask you not to disrupt that happiness of hers. However, if you insist." I nodded my head at all of the destroyed puppets before continuing, "As you can see I'm no pushover. If I must, I will defend the village and its people. And I will find a way to stop the moon from colliding with the earth. With or without your help." A deep silence filled the air as Tonari gave careful consideration to my words. In the end he frowned and conceded. "Very well, follow me." It wasn't long before Tonari took me to a large lake with a special spring inside. As we passed through it and ended up on the other side we stood along the edge of a cliff overlooking an ocean below as an artificial sun gleamed in the sky above. As I was taking the sight all in Tonari interjected, "We're here. This is an artificial climate created by my ancestors who lived on the moon." I nodded before asking, "Is there a village nearby that was used by your predecessors?" Tonari glanced at me warily before responding, "There is. Do you wish to go there?" I nodded. "Yes. I believe if we are to find any traces of Hamura's soul it would be in the place where your predecessors lived." Without any more discussion I followed Tonari to an old and ancient city left in ruins from the passing of time and war. Tonari stopped in his tracks as we arrived and asked, "Well, we are here. How do you propose we summon the soul of my ancestor?" I looked around a bit before answering. "Give me an hour. There's something I wish to look for. It is essential for the process." Tonari furrowed his brow in confusion. "You speak as if you've been here before. How do you know whether whatever you are looking for is even here?" I simply smirked and replied mysteriously, "That shouldn't be your concern. What matters most is finding the way to communicate with Hamura." Without wasting time with more words I dashed off into the distance as I searched for the burial place of the fallen Otsutsuki clan on the moon. It wasn't too long before I arrived before the familiar spot of a large Otsutsuki crest in an old castle ruin. MN. If memory serves, this is the spot where a path leading to the remnant graves of the Otsutsuki clan are. At that moment Senko decided to speak out. You seem quite sure of yourself. How do you know this place exists? And how do you know that it is possible to communicate with Hamura's soul here?" I shook my head. Let's just say I had a hunch. As for communicating with Hamura's soul, that I'm still not sure of. I'm hoping that Hamura will see how anguished his last remaining descendant is and help lead Tonari back on the right path by appearing before us and giving him guidance and counsel. Oh, quite the optimist, aren't you? And what if Hamura does not appear and Tonari decides to attack you in a fit of rage for thinking that you tricked him? I shrugged my shoulders. I have no control over that. If I must fight, then I shall fight. But I do hope I can end this incident smoothly and peacefully. Senko simply smirked. Your plan seems a bit naive, but I can't deny that you gave it a try. If traces of Hamura's soul is still lingering around, then you might be able to detect it with your Rinnegan. Good luck. I nodded. I placed a marker in this area before dashing out and returned before Tonari, who took notice of my presence. So, did you find what you were looking for? I nodded, which greatly surprised Tonari. I found what I was looking for. I'll take us there. I slowly approached Tonari and placed my hand on his shoulder as I teleported us to my marker. Instantaneous transportation. Ha! This is how you can get around so quickly and undetected. What are we doing here? I cleared my throat before saying, please excuse my rudeness. The place we need to go to is actually underneath this place. I placed my hand on the ground and said, Earth-style, grand hole emergence. Immediately a giant hole opened up on the ground, revealing a long flight of descending stairs. Tonari flinched in shock at the revelation that there was a secret underground area here that he didn't know about. I quickly started walking down with Tonari following behind. As we reached the bottom, we were met with a giant underground cemetery. Tonari stared in awe as he stammered, this is the main branch family. It was at that moment a person slowly walked over to us. A person without eyes. It slowly stopped before us and muttered, Tonari. You've come at last. Without wasting any time, that person stumbled and fell to the ground, becoming nothing but a broken puddle of mess as an orb of purple light arose from its mouth. With great brilliance it filled the entire room in its all-encompassing aura that lasted for only a moment. However, in that moment Tonari's expression changed greatly. In but a single moment he had witnessed the memories of the past and met with the spirit of Hamura. There was a deafening silence between Tonari and I for several long minutes before he turned to me and said in a dejected voice, I don't know what to say. All this time I've been alone on the moon thinking that I understood the will of my ancestor, but now, everything I thought I knew of turns out to be the exact opposite of the wishes my predecessors had wanted. What am I to do? I stared at Tonari for a moment before answering, you could return to Earth with me. Live in Konoha amongst us shinobi. You don't have to be alone, Tonari. Tonari mulled it over before shaking his head. I can't. I wouldn't know how to interact with you shinobi. I am too ashamed to stand amongst your kind. I shook my head in response. We have all done things that we are not proud of. Your situation is not yet irreversible. You still have the option to walk the right path. Tonari stared at me in deep contemplation before turning his head. No. I appreciate your offer, Sixth Hokage. You are beyond my understanding. You are greatly forgiving, yet can also be greatly fearsome. You followed me, a stranger to an unknown place all alone without fear. I could have decided to ambush you instead. I am unsure whether it is because you are that confident in your abilities or that you had simply decided to place your faith in my word. Perhaps a bit of both. Whichever it is, I admire you for it. I will remain here on the moon. Away from the world of shinobi. I have decided to watch over your world from here. In my shame and weakness. I see. Is there anything I can do to change your mind? Tonari shook his head. If you would please, I would like to take you up on your offer. To observe Hinata one last time and see if she is truly happy on Earth with the one called Naruto. I nodded my head as I followed Tonari out onto the moon's surface. We both stood there in complete silence for a few hours before I heard Tonari let out a deep sigh. He then turned to me and said, "It is as you say. She seems happy beyond measure to be by Naruto's side." After a moment of silence passed between us, I was about to bring up the moon issue when Tonari quickly interjected, "I know. You need not worry. I shall reverse the movement of the moon and stop it from its collision course with Earth. Follow me." In but a few minutes we arrived at the place where a giant golden sun-like object was. Tonari pointed to it and informed, "This is the Tensogun. A combination of all the Bakugan collected from my predecessors. We used it to fuel the energy we needed to survive on the moon. I had activated it, causing the moon to move towards Earth. The only way to reverse this is to destroy the Tensogun. It can only be touched by one who contains the bloodline of Otsutsuki Hamura." Without wasting time with any more words, Tonari rushed straight at the Tensogun and shouted with all his might as he attempted to destroy it. "Ah!" Tonari screamed as he fueled as much of his power in his attack as he could. However, no matter how much power he placed behind his attack, the Tensogun remained undamaged. I watched as he panted, catching his breath. Just as he was about to try again, I arrived before him and placed my hand on his back. "Sixth Hokage?" he questioned. I simply nodded and replied, "Tonari. Our meeting may have had a rough beginning, but it doesn't mean that it must have a terrible ending. If possible, I would like for us to become friends. Allow me to lend you some strength." Tonari felt a surge of warmth fill his heart as he stared at me, who acknowledged him and replied, "Heh. Very well. Then I won't hold back." And with that I fueled my powerful chakra into Tonari as he shouted and struck the Tensogun with all his being. Boom! In mere moments the Tensogun creaked and imploded as it was completely destroyed, releasing all the Bakugan into the surrounding area that made up its core. Soon after, Tonari and I returned to the surface of the moon as I took a sweep of the surrounding area and said, "Now, all that's left is to remove all the meteorites, asteroids, and debris that are already heading towards Earth from before." Tonari turned to me and questioned, "How are you going to do that?" I simply smirked and replied, "Watch." I clapped my hands together before raising them in the air. Immediately several dense gravity cores shot out as I said, "Catastrophic planetary devastation." Zing! Immediately the dense gravity cores began sucking up the remnant meteorites, rocks, debris, and asteroids that were approaching Earth, sweeping them clean. I then controlled them to fall onto the moon, becoming nothing but large rocky terrain on the moon's surface. Tonari watched with incredulity as he said in disbelief, "Why, you possess the Rinnegan?" I smirked at his astonishment and simply shrugged my shoulders. "Well then, Tonari. This is goodbye. For now at least. Remember, you are not alone, my friend." Without another word I patted Tonari on the shoulder reassuringly before instantly disappearing with the flying thunder god jutsu and arriving right back in the Hokage's office by Hanabi's side. I watched as she paced back and forth in nervousness and only stopped when she bumped into my chest. "OOF!" she exclaimed. She quickly looked up and without missing a beat she pulled me close. "You were gone for hours. I thought you said you'd be right back." I let out a soft sigh as I held her close to my chest. "Sorry to worry you. Everything's going to be okay now." She simply nodded her head and snuggled closer to my chest. "Amen." The answer is yes. I raised my brow in confusion at her words. What do you mean yes? I saw the ring box on your desk. I instantly panicked after hearing what she said. I forgot to put it away before I left. However, she continued, I don't care. Izaya. I don't need or want anything fancy or flashy. I just want you. I get it. I know you're strong. You're the strongest person I know as far as I'm concerned, but that doesn't make me any less worried when you rush off into danger. Who knows what could happen? What if one day you leave and never come back? My expression softened after hearing her words and I held her even tighter. I had wanted to wait for everything to be perfect before proposing. I wanted to surprise her. I wanted to show off a bit. I wanted to tell the entire world how lucky I was to be marrying the most amazing woman in the entire world. I wanted everyone to know that she was mine. But as I held her in my embrace, in this moment, I felt a powerful stirring emotion within me. It was a feeling of pure simple happiness. Of love. And peace. Right. I was foolish. All I need is Hanabi. Just as she is. Right here. Right now and in my arms. I'm an idiot, Hyuga Hanabi. I promise to love you with all my heart forever. Will you marry me? Her heart felt as if it would leap out of her chest as she finally heard the words she had so much wanted to hear. Tears streamed down the sides of her cheeks as her entire being quivered in joy. Yes. Yes. I will. You're an idiot. But you're my idiot. And in that moment, we sealed our promise with a kiss. A kiss of our pure, honest, and simple joining of our union. And this journey was only the beginning. For the both of us. And continued, well, finally. Izaya and Hanabi made it. And so did we. End of war. Shinobi data. Jutsu rank, unclassified, U-SABCD. Note, not everything is listed in here. I decided to place this up just for a rough summary at the end. And just for fun. Ninja, Izaya Karasuma 188 cm. Birth date, the 3rd of December. Wife, Hanabi Hyuga 170 cm. Birth date, the 27th of March. Konoha position, 6th Hokage. Appearance. Height, 188 cm. Hair, snow white 2-block hairstyle. Light pale skin. Outfit Hokage, white long-sleeved haori with red flame patterns on the border and red falling leaves printed on the haori. Red pants and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up to the elbows with the shirt only being buttoned to the chest area. He wears a necklace with the letter H on it and the Hokage's hat strapped behind his back. Muramasa is sheathed on his left waist with a black leaf forehead protector tied to it. Titles. Konoha's White Flash. The Blind Warrior. The Lone Ninja. God of Shinobi. 6th Hokage. Ninja type, sensory. Dojutsu, both eyes. Sharingan. Mangekyo Sharingan, black hole swirl in the center with 6 tomo on the outside. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, black hole swirl in the center, 4 long straight marks like X in center, 6 tomo on outside of eye. Right eye, Amaterasu, heavenly illumination, inextinguishable black flames. Left eye, Kunino Takotakai, one of 2 gods born from the chaotic earth like a reader risen from the soil, the power to distort objects' size. The fundamental power and density does not change, but increased size increases range of influence, decreased size increases ability to pierce and puncture. Both eyes, Black Susanoo, tempestuous god of valor. Yasei Magatamar beads. Mesa Mune. Perfect Susanoo. Rinnegan, completely black with red circle patterns and 6 red tomo. 3 on the inner ring, 3 on the second inner ring. Right eye, Kanigara no Michi, known as the Way of the Divine transmitted through time immemorial. This ability lets you freeze time within 5 meters of yourself for 3 seconds. There is a 30-second interval before this ability can be used again. Left eye, unknown. Ninja tools / weapons. Flying Thunder God Kunai. Mesa Mune, a deep blue blade with a black-colored tint. Appears with Susanoo. Every strike can cut as far as you can see. Attack phases through allies. Its attack power is only equal to that of a regular Susanoo blade, but it can repel and deflect any attack using the flat edge of the blade. Muramasa, a deep purple blade with a violet hilt and black diamond patterns. A blade with terrifying attack power. It remains sealed in its sheath. When the blade is drawn, it releases a powerful sinister aura that can affect those in the area, causing them to see and feel horrifying illusions with the possibility to crush the mind and spirit of those who are weak. Summons. 1. Rashomon, triple Rashomon, quintuple Rashomon. 2. Crows. 3. 6 special crows with Rinnegan eyes through animal path. Sage mode, 4 divine symbols Sage mode. Keki Genkai, wood style. Wood style, silent strangle jutsu, snake. Wood clone, clone sign. Wood style, deep forest emergence, tiger, snake. Wood style, advent world of flowering trees, snake. Wood style, great forest technique, tiger, horse, tiger, snake. Wood style, wood dome jutsu, rat, dog, tiger. Wood style, killing spear jutsu, dragon, bird, snake. Wood style, wood snake jutsu, snake. Wood style, wood dragon, snake, ram, hare, dog, snake. Hokage style elder jutsu. Original jutsu. Taiyaugan /sun sphere, S creates a powerful bright golden sphere of chakra like a miniature sun containing fire, water, wind, and lightning nature. Taiyaugan /sun sphere beam, S condenses sun sphere even smaller and shoots out in a laser-focused beam. Fire element seal punishing array jutsu, a dragon, 5 special kunai marked with fire element seal in circle, bombards OPP when inside. Lightning element seal punishing array jutsu, a tiger, 5 special kunai marked with specific element seal in circle, bombards OPP when inside. Misk jutsu. Rasengan, a shadow clone explosion jutsu, a shadow clone, b shuriken shadow clone jutsu, c ox, dog, dragon, rat, dog, boar, snake, tiger. Kunai shadow clone jutsu, c ox, dog, dragon, rat, dog, boar, snake, tiger. Space-time jutsu. Flying Thunder God Jutsu, S. Flying Thunder God Jutsu guiding thunder, S, snake, horse, rat, ram. Flying Thunder God Jutsu gate crossing, S, horse, ox, rat, bird, hare, ram, creates a link to any Flying Thunder God markers that are placed in a different dimension. Fuinjutsu. -8 trigram sealing jutsu, U. -4 fiend symbol seal, S, dog, ox, boar, tiger, ox, boar, tiger, dog, boar, tiger, ox, dog, tiger, dog, ox, boar, clap hands, used to seal and suppress incredibly powerful souls, spirits, or chakras. -4 divine symbol seal, S, snake, bird, dragon, tiger, bird dragon, tiger, snake, dragon, tiger, snake, bird, tiger, snake, bird, dragon, clap hands, used to seal incredibly powerful spirit or chakra to smoothly fuse it with one's own to better utilize its power. One-way heavenly concealment visual jutsu, b. Seal severing disruption jutsu, b. Snake, rat, snake, dog, clap. Reverse lock unsealing jutsu, b. Rat, ox, horse, bird, dragon, tiger, boar, dog, snake, hare, ram. -5 Seal barrier jutsu, c. Sealing jutsu minor evil suppression seal, c. Hare, snake, horse, ram, bird, dog, rat. One-way concealing visual jutsu, d. Genjutsu. Demonic illusion bewildering jutsu, b. Bird, boar, ox, rat, dog, snake. Demonic illusion false surroundings jutsu, c. Demonic illusion hell viewing jutsu, d. Elemental nature, fire, earth, lightning, water, wind, yin and yang. Fire jutsu. Fire style, flame bullet, c. Snake, ram, monkey, boar, horse, and tiger. Fire style, majestic destroyer flame jutsu, b. Horse. Fire style, dragon flame jutsu, c. Snake, dragon, hare, tiger. Earth jutsu. Earth style, bottomless swamp jutsu, u. Earth style, earth wall jutsu, b. Tiger, hare, boar, and dog. Earth style, headhunter jutsu, c. Lightning jutsu. Lightning style, thunderbolt jutsu, u. Tiger, snake, tiger, bird, tiger, ram. Chidori, a. Ox, hare, monkey. Water jutsu. Water style, water shockwave jutsu, u. Clap hands. Taijutsu Wushu style southern movement. Dancing dragon. Vicious viper. Taming tiger. Ninja, Haku Yuki 179 cm. Birth date, the 9th of January. Wife, AK Nuzumaki 167 cm. Birth date, the 17th of February. Appearance. Height, 179 cm. Hair, long black hair that flows down to the middle of his back tied in a low ponytail style. 2 long bangs on the sides of his face. Fair-skinned. Outfit, hooded navy blue cloak with snow-white fur on the borders with the length reaching just past his knees. White snowflake images printed on the back of the cloak. Unbuttoned navy blue coat with the sleeves just reaching his elbows and navy blue arm braces. Snow-white shirt underneath and navy blue pants with the same color greaves. One ninja tool pack on right hip and another on his left. Leaf headband is worn on his forehead. Titles. Silent Killer Haku. Frost Needle Haku. -1000 Needles Haku. Haku of the Ice style. Ocean Sage Haku. Ninja Tools /weapons. Senbon Needles. Summons, Ryugajo Palace. 1. Icenade, a giant shark sea monster. 2. Namaju, a giant 25m tall 40m long catfish. 3. Koromodako, a palm-size octopus that can grow to 80m in size. Sage Mode, Ocean Sage Mode, Heavenly Ocean Sage Mode. Keki Genkai, Ice Style. Ice Style, Shattering Ice Spear Jutsu, Hand Touch Ground. Ice Style, Ice Barrier Dome Jutsu, Palms out in front. Ice Style, Crystal Ice Mirrors Jutsu, Confrontation Hand Sign. Ice Style, Ice Prison Jutsu. Ice Style, Ice Dragon Jutsu. Ice Style, Crystal Wall Jutsu, Tiger. Ice Style, Frozen Fist Jutsu. Ice Style, Swallow Snowstorm Jutsu, tiger. Ice style, 10,000 ice petals jutsu, tiger. Ice style, freezing mist jutsu, bird, snake, ram. Ice style, mirror array clone jutsu, snake, dragon, hare, bird. Ice style. Freezing liquid jutsu, ram, turns ice forward/liquid into liquid nitrogen. Elements, water, wind, yin. Water jutsu. Hidden mist jutsu, yu, ox, snake, ram. Water style, water bullet jutsu, yu, tiger, ox, tiger, rat. Water style, turtle water jutsu, yu, dragon, snake, bird, ox, hare, and snake. Secret technique, 1000 flying water needles of death, b. Water style, water wall jutsu, b. Tiger, snake, rat, snake, tiger. Water style, water dragon jutsu, b. Ox, monkey, rabbit, rat, boar, bird, ox, horse, bird, rat, tiger, dog, tiger, snake, ox, ram, snake, boar, ram, rat, dragon, and monkey, bird, dragon, bird, ox, horse, ram, tiger, snake, rat, monkey, rabbit, boar, dragon, ram, rat, ox, monkey, bird, dragon, rat, boar, bird. Water style, gunshot jutsu, c. Water style, water clone, c. Water style, syrup trap, c. Ram, tiger. Water style, raging waves, c. Dragon, tiger, hare. Wind jutsu. Wind style, passing typhoon jutsu, yu, hand clap. Wind style, gale force jutsu, b. Bird, horse, ram. Bird. Wind style, air cannon jutsu, b. Tiger, bird, boar, rat, clap. Wind style, severing blade jutsu, c. Medical ninjutsu. Chakra scalpel. Ninja, Kimimro Kaguya 195 cm. Birth date, the 15th of June. Wife, Kurotsuchi 164 cm. Birth date, the 6th of September. Appearance. Height, 195 cm. Hair, long white hair that flows down to his waist. A long bang neatly tied on the right side of his face. Fair-skinned. Outfit, a light purple hakama with a ripped and torn texture around the bottom. An open-chested white haori with purple flower patterns and a purple rope tying it in place by his waist. 3 sharp bones hang on the front right side and the front left side of the rope. His leaf headband is hung on the left side of the rope. Titles. Bone Demon Kimimro. Konoha's Pale Beast. Sage Mode, 9 Dragons Sage Mode. Completed through 9 Dragons Breathing Technique. Kekii Genkai, Dead Bone Pulse. Dance of Camellia, creates a bone sword. Dance of the Honey Locust Spear, long bone spear flies out from body. Dance of the Seedling Fern, thousands of bones protrude from the ground. Dance of the Willow Vine, long flexible bone protrusions shoot from hand to ensnare targets. Dance of the Weeding Cage, monkey, snake, make bones hard but flexible and entangle target in vine-like bones. Skeletal Wall Frame Jutsu, ox, boar, ram, infuses bone calcium outwards and creates a wall of bones. Skeletal Cage Death Trap, snake, ox, rat, monkey, tiger, traps target in a cage on all 5 sides that slowly closes in on itself and crushes them to death. Boneyard Grave, snake, ram, dog, hands to the ground, creates thousands of large bone protrusions and skeletons that erupt from the ground to capture, ensnare, and disrupt the battlefield. Kekii Mora, all-killing Ush Bones. 1000 Spears of Death. Elements: Earth, Yang. Earth Jutsu. Earth Style, Bottomless Swamp, U. Earth Style, Mobile Core Jutsu, U. Earth Style, Mud Wall Jutsu, B. Earth Style, Earthquake Slam, C. Taijutsu. -8 Inner Gates Released Formation. First Gate of Opening. Second Gate of Healing. Third Gate of Life. Wushu Style 8 Extreme Fists. -8th Fist of Moving. -7th Fist of Splitting. -6th Fist of Elevation. -5th Fist of Striking. -4th Fist of Swaying. -3 Road Fist of Entanglement. -2 ND Fist of Spinning. -1 ST Fist of Destruction. Wushu Style Hua Fists of Striking. -18 Forms Primary Strike, opens up target's defense and weakens their physical strength. -18 Forms Secondary Strike, strikes to expel target's chakra. -12 Forms Moving Road, maximizes damage to target. Wushu Style Southern Movement. Vicious Viper. Floundering Fish. Wushu Style 3 Sovereign Hands. -1 ST Hand Suiron, a powerful taijutsu technique used to pierce and drill through target. 9 Dragons Breathing Technique. Take 9 deep breaths. Each breath takes in the surrounding natural energy and converts it into compatible chakra, which can quickly restore stamina and numb pain, allowing for continuous battle. The more breaths, the more natural energies baptize the cells, muscles, bones, and tissues of the body, eventually leading to a perfect sage mode, specifically enhancing all taijutsu. The 9 Dragons Sage Mode. Shaolin Style 6 Kicks of Fury. Ninja, Hanabi Hyuga 170 cm. Birth date, the 27th of March. Husband, Izaya Karasuma 188 cm. Birth date, the 3rd of December. Appearance. Height, 170 cm. Hair, long dark brown hair that flows to the middle of her back, tied in a low ponytail. 2 long bangs hang down on either side of her face. Fair-skinned. Dojutsu, Bakugan. Hyuga Taijutsu. -8 trigrams 16 palms, 32 palms, 64 palms, 128 palms. -8 trigrams vacuum palm. -8 trigrams palms revolving heaven. Elements: lightning, fire. Lightning Jutsu. Lightning Style, Falling Thunder, bee, boar, dog, dragon, tiger. Fire Jutsu. Fire Style, Art of the Dragon Flame Jutsu, bee, tiger. Ninja, Sajukachi Ha 182 cm. Birth date, the 23rd of July. Wife, Sakura Hirano 165 cm. Birth date, the 28th of March. Titles: Demon-Eyed Sajuk. Sajuk of the Sharingan. The Dark Fire Shinobi. Child of Prophecy. Ninja, Naruto Uzumaki 180 cm. Birth date, the 10th of October. Wife, Hinata Hyuga 163 cm. Birth date, the 27th of December. Titles: Hero of the Leaf. Child of Prophecy. Demon Fox Shinobi. Orange Hokage. That's it for this video, guys. Hope you like the video. Like, share and subscribe the channel. Also make sure you give me your recommendation in the comment section down below. Thank for watching.